What is up, ladies and gentlemen? The Sleeper AI or UI, whatever it's called, has added in the rookies. So now we can do some rookie mock drafts, get an early look at, where you want to go with your rookie picks. Got a bunch of people filing into the draft room right now. We're not going to waste any time. This is a fun time of the year. We get to finally talk about, where the tier breaks are and, who's similar and what's going to break them up and, projected draft capital and stuff. We've talked behind the scenes between, me and you, Danny. We've talked especially a lot about this class, and, we're getting in the process right now of building our Dynasty rookie draft guide, which will be our first edition, will be live on February 15th on Flock Fantasy. So we're watching a lot of these guys right now, and it's, generating some good buzz around this class and exactly what we're going to be talking about here. So I will drop the link in the chat for you guys to join this Superflex draft. We're going to do a one quarterback one after this. If we have time, maybe we'll do a tight end premium one after that or something like that. But regardless, get in here and we'll have some fun.
Amen. Amen. By the way, for those of you wondering what's been going on with me, was sick last couple days, feeling a lot better now. So ready to rip some mocks.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know about you, Danny, but I'm, I would say about 13 wide receivers deep into this class. I like doing wide receivers first because personally they're my least favorite position to evaluate because it is very repetitive. I think it's like, how good does he run routes? How good does he catch the ball? How good
what
do
his releases look like?
It's very repetitive evaluating wide receivers, which is why I like to do it right away because I have a lot of energy towards the watching film aspect of evaluating these prospects this time of year. So I'm almost through like the major names. So if you ask me anything about Troy Franklin or Brian Thomas or, any of the deeper names even too, like Tez Walker and Malachi Corley, like I've already evaluated these guys. So I kind of know what I'm talking about with these dudes. The quarterbacks, we did an early quarterback rankings video about a month ago, so I know a baseline level of those guys. The running back class and the rest of the tight end class, aside from Brock Bowers and Jatavian Sanders, I'm not well versed on yet. But we'll obviously, we got tons of time. We got like 4 months before we actually have to do rookie drafts. So the draft is actually full. We're going to randomize the draft order. We're not going to use any like landing spots from any mock drafts, but I will kind of highlight, recent mock drafts that I've seen. I don't know if you want to do the same. When we get like certain players coming off the board, we can kind of say, oh yeah, I've seen that guy mocked in the first round a couple of times. What's up?
I got a good idea what we could do. So this one we do base, next one we do base, and if we have time, maybe we could even follow a mock draft
I think Ian Cummings dropped a 7-rounder the other day, but the only problem is like I feel like when we want to follow a mock draft, we need to get all the picks set up, how we do with the landing spots and all the draft capital and stuff. It might be challenging to like scroll through a mock draft for everybody. So
we could post the link into the chat and star it.
We could, but it's just then you have to you have to scroll through a huge website and go page to page for each one. It's way easier, I think, when we do it with landing spots when we organize it beforehand so that everybody knows. But anyways, we'll get the draft order randomized here. It is not a snake draft, obviously, because it is a rookie mock draft. We're not doing, a startup mock or whatever. I actually secured the 102. You're, where are you chilling? Did you get a pick?
Did I not? I was in the draft.
I guess we're drafted together for this one.
I was in the draft. How did I get booted?
I guess you got booted. So it looks like you don't have a pick here. So we're gonna be rolling this one as one here.
How did I get booted from the draft?
I don't know, but you're good anyways. All right. I'm going to start the draft. It is 60-second timers, fellas.
Yeah.
It's a 4-round mock draft. You joined it. If you auto pick, you're absolutely fired. Like you are completely fired because Danny didn't even get in this draft. So if anybody auto picks here, we're going to be a little bit salty, but we are starting the draft. It is not a tight end premium. We can do a tight end premium after. We're just going to do a standard super flex draft. After this one, we'll do a 1 quarterback draft. And then maybe the third, if we have time, we'll roll with a tight end premium one. So I don't know if this guy knows that it is Superflex. It is Superflex, but I have seen Marvin go 101 in Superflex. So I'm not going to say that he just didn't know and this was a huge mistake. So we're going to pretend that this is a world we're living in where Marvin Harrison went 101. Maybe the person that's picking 101 in your league is one of those idiot league mates who drafts for need and they already have 2 quarterbacks, so they don't want to draft Caleb Williams, but I'm pretty much in agreement here that we roll with Caleb. It looks like he's going to be a Chicago Bear. I would imagine that's the direction that they're going to go, but we never know. I mean, Chicago seems maybe dead set on keeping Justin Fields to some people, so maybe they're going to move off of this pick and trade with Washington or trade with New England, or maybe somebody from lower in the draft order is going to hop all the way up to the first pick to take Caleb Williams. So feel pretty good about Caleb at 102. And I think this will be possible for some people.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've seen him even in industry mocks go at the 1. Like I saw one that was posted today where Marvin went at the 1 and Malik Neighbors actually went over Drake May. So there's a lot that can happen in this draft. There's just a ton of really good prospects. The way I kind of view it right now is the 101 to 103 kind of like separating themselves between Marvin Harrison, the 2 top quarterbacks with Caleb and with Drake May. And then honest to God, like at first it was 104 to 106. I watched some more Rome Odunze. I'm willing to say that 104 to 107 is a tier. I think Rome Odunze is going to be a top 10 overall draft pick. I ended up grading him out. He was close to being a top 10 grade at wide receiver in my grading. I believe the 90 was the threshold. He got an 89 for me. So, I mean, like you're talking about a high-end top 25 prospect based on the grading, which if you're equating that, that's basically a top 15 level player, which is about where I thought I would have him. But watching him over, he looked much more fluid than I thought he even would look, especially when it comes to getting quick in and out of his breaks. When the ball is in his hands, a lot more elusive than I thought he would be. Like, I'm going to be a really big Rome Odunze fan, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I had him a little lower than that. I think he was an 87.5 for me. So you actually view him because 88 and 88.5 is where I had Drake London and Garrett Wilson respectively a couple years ago. So you even view Rome Odunze, at least in terms of where I graded Garrett Wilson and Drake London, as potentially a better prospect than those two guys.
He's really good, man. And honestly, I've said Michael Pittman plus, but I don't even think that does a service to how well he moves. Like, I think he moves a lot better than Michael Pittman did, especially coming out.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about this top tier with Marvin, with Caleb, with Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, and Brock Bowers, I mean, I'm in a dynasty startup right now. I'm in with a bunch of industry folks that do their research, that know their shit. I mean, the 101 went at the 109 in the startup. Yeah. The 202, I got a value on, in my opinion, at the 206. And I, again, whether you want to equate that to Marvin Harrison, whether you want to equate that to, whoever, like the 202 at 206 is pretty telling. The 103, went at 212, and then we had 104. I took in the third round. Like all these picks went super, super high. So we're on the board here.
JJ here?
Absolutely not. I would not be going JJ McCarthy here.
Really?
So the way I look at JJ McCarthy, man, like I'm going to view him as like a mid to late second rounder until I hear legitimate buzz that he's going to go in the first round. I know Mel Kiper mocked him in the first round, 16th overall to the Seahawks. I don't believe the buzz yet. I personally don't believe it.
I've seen a lot of mocks with him top 20. Well, I've seen a lot of mocks with him top 20. It's kind of funny because if he doesn't go in the first round, 2-2, I agree, is too early. But if he does go in the first round, 2-2 would be an absolute steal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I think he should be like
based on mine, like we don't want to know necessarily where we have each other's players graded. The 2 highest graded players for me are Keon Coleman and Xavier Legette. I'll let you actually make the picks. We only got about 10 seconds here.
By the way, next draft, go by position. I would vote for Legette. I prefer Legette a good amount to Keon at this point.
Okay, yeah. So let's roll with Xavier Legette. If you guys don't know who Xavier Legette is, wide receiver from South Carolina. There was a report I saw somebody tweet out that he was like listed 6'3", actually weighs in at 6.5 and like he's 227 on South Carolina's website, but he actually weighs in less than that. I don't know where that guy got that information from because the prospects have not actually reached Mobile, Alabama to do any weigh-ins at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. So I don't know where he got that information from, but I will say until we actually get official measurements on the senior prospects. And of course, the underclassmen we won't get till the combine. I'm just going to assume that it's correct what's on their website, even though it's probably not. He probably is 6'2", 218 pounds instead of 6'3", 227s like he's listed. I'm just going to assume it's correct for now.
Like realistically, even if he's 6'2", 220 pounds, that doesn't really change what I think about him. Because funny enough, I mean, we kind of said how he kind of has a little bit of a DK Metcalf, AJ Brown combination feel to him. Well, I mean, AJ Brown, when he was at the combine, was what, 6'1", 226 pounds, right? So
yeah. So if he's more AJ Brown size, then that makes a little bit more sense. I do think, and the reason I think if nobody's watched Xavier Legette, the reason that the DK Metcalf comparisons are coming out is because he's tough, he's physical, he's a monster athletically down the field, especially. And ironically, the highest posted MPH speed in the NFL this year was DK Metcalf's touchdown against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. It was 22.23 miles per hour. Xavier Legette's touchdown against Mississippi State was 22.7 miles per hour. So he had the fastest time, faster than Tyreek Hill, Devon H, like any NFL player. Xavier Legette posted a faster miles per hour play in college football. He is a monster athletically, and I think he's going to test absolutely out the wazoo. And I think eventually we might get to the point come March, come April, where he's a back end first round pick in a lot of mock drafts because the NFL cares about athletic testing. We know as fantasy players, it shouldn't really affect how we think of wide receivers, but the NFL absolutely cares about it.
Legette's fucking awesome, by the way. There's going to be some people in the comments right now, like, how could you take a guy with his analytical profile that high at the 2-2? And honest to God, we're baking in his analytical profile at the 2-2. Like, if he had a crystal clean projection analytically, dude, you could make the case he's the clear-cut number 4 overall wide receiver in this class. And I don't think it would be close, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely not. I think his tape, I have Worthy as my wide receiver 4, but Worthy also outgrades him because his analytics profile is virtually ironclad aside from his size. So that's kind of the difference between those two guys. But yeah, Legette is an awesome prospect. I mean, I'll pause the draft when we're on the clock here just because I kind of want to talk about some other things that have happened. So if you guys are in the room, just keep in mind 1 second. I just want to outline the tier breaks that have happened here. So at 108, Brian Thomas goes off the board. I think a lot of people are going to be very high on Brian Thomas. He's getting mocked very highly in mock drafts. As you guys will learn if you have our draft guide, I am not the biggest Brian Thomas fan. I think that he's
our biggest difference right now.
To be honest, me and Danny actually disagree on this. So.
Well, it's funny because for reference, like the way I kind of compare Brian Thomas is you can't really do it to the smaller wide receivers. It's like, oh, who are the big wide receivers in this class? How you kind of order them between him, between A.D. Mitchell, between Xavier Legette, between Troy Franklin. Like there's a lot of Tez Walker, Keon Coleman, like a lot of these bigger wide receivers. And I do prefer Brian Thomas. Now, like I said, if Xavier Legette had a better analytical profile where he had more than 600 yards in his first 4 years in college, he would be the clear-cut number 4 for me. But I'm a Brian Thomas fan. I think he's the most advanced of the group. Obviously, Corey disagrees in that regard. But when we're saying disagree, we're saying like, oh, I view Brian Thomas as a top 35 level player in this class. You have him as like a top 75 player. So
yeah, he's still going to get the draft capital, which will elevate him a little bit. Let's make a pick here. I think Audric Estime is clearly the best player.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. By the way, for the next draft, do the positions because it'll show the whole board. You can go quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. So just do one of each. And again, if you draft 2 or 3 quarterbacks, it'll just go to the bench.
I just did Superflex because I thought it would be easier aesthetically, but it's actually not. So but yeah, looking at the rest of the board, I think a lot of this makes sense. Do any of these picks surprise you? For me, I think 111 Xavier Worthy is far too low. Like
I think that's
realize
too high
Xavier
for me,
Worthy is undersized, man, but like I think he's honestly closer to Rome Odunze than he is to the other receivers in this class, in my opinion.
I'm not gonna lie, I completely disagree. Brian Thomas and Xavier Worthy are the guys we're on the other sides of. And for reference, like I'm lower than you on Worthy, but I've seen people that have like had him blasphemously low, like wide receiver 14 in the class. And it's like, even though I'm lower, he's still going to be a top 10 wide receiver for me. It's not like I have him at wide receiver 13 or wide receiver 14. But at the same time, it's like there are holes in this game compared to where when I'm looking at the bigger wide receivers that also can win deep, I would just rather with some of those guys. But again, like we're splitting hairs. We're looking at a lot of these guys with clear top 50 overall grades, like 4 of them.
Yeah, it's really difficult when you decipher through these guys, but that's what you're going to have to do, right? Like in rookie drafts, people who don't do their research are going to have the attitude, I'm just going to draft these guys based on landing spot, based on draft capital, whatever. They're all the same. They're not. Like there is differences and they're going to have better fits with certain teams. Like, a Brian Thomas, for example, if he goes to the Los Angeles Chargers or the Kansas City Chiefs, a team where he has a big armed quarterback that can get him the ball downfield, that's a big deal. That's something that is going to affect him versus, say, going to a team like Carolina that doesn't have a number 1 wide receiver right now. And it might be challenging for him to command an alpha target share because he's never fucking done it. So that's one of my big problems with Brian Thomas is that, when I watch him, I see a guy that is a little bit more one-trick pony-ish. He's a little bit more one-dimensional, but that could work. Like, I said the same thing about George Pickens coming out of Georgia, and he's developed in a very good landing spot.
Literally your comp for receiver. Isn't that literally your comp for Brian Thomas too? Is Pickens?
No, my comp for Adonai Mitchell is George Pickens.
Right.
Actually,
okay, fair enough.
My comp for Brian Thomas is Nico Collins because I think he will actually take a couple of years to develop, which is something that also scares me off of Brian Thomas, knowing that we as Dynasty players don't like that if players take a couple of years to develop.
Nico's a good comp. I would say Nico would be like the polished version of what he could become. And I mean, like, that's no slight at all. I love Brian Thomas, but if he became a 1,300 yard, 10 touchdown wide receiver in the next level, like, you're looking at a
Like a top
legitimate
5 receiver in yards per route run this year,
yeah.
basically.
No, 100%. No,
That
Nico
would
is
be
an
a
absolute
nuts
stud.
comparison for him. I have seen Brian Thomas to the Jaguars. If they don't re-sign Calvin
I would
Ridley, I
love
think
that.
that is an awesome fit because
Awesome.
you have Christian Kirk as the underneath guy. You get Brian Thomas playing the Calvin Ridley role with a little bit more physicality, a little bit more athleticism to that role because Ridley's a little bit older. He's more of like a route runner savant type. I actually just don't think Ridley fits their offense very well, at least as it's currently constructed.
Agreed.
So we're back on the board here.
Cowing?
Yeah, Cowing's interesting. So I just finished grading Malachi Corley, and
Agreed,
I'm a little
Timothy.
scared for Jacob Cowing because his profile seems quite similar.
Yeah.
High target share, earning wide receiver.
I know,
but there's a lot of screens and a lot of design touches, which I don't totally love, but I think Cowing is the best option here.
A guy I really am curious to dive into as well is Malik Washington. I know he's been getting a lot of buzz recently. I believe he's a Senior Bowl guy as well. Very productive player this year, very consistent player, and I've heard a lot of buzz about him at the Senior Bowl. Like, if he has a big time performance, I can see this guy going day 2. And like I said, he has a very productive profile in college. So really curious what happens there. Malik Washington.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed about this class a little bit, because I have seen a bunch of people, like you said, ripping a lot of these rookie mocks, and one thing that I'm starting to get a little bit nervous about is the depth after about the mid-3rd round. So if you guys have late 3rd rounders, I would be a little bit concerned. But that being said, the early, mid, late 2nd round and the early 3rd round are probably going to be loaded with talent. So this is a deep class, but it's not a very deep class, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a deep class in terms of quality players to like 30 deep. But then once you get outside the top 30 to 35, I don't think we're getting, definitely not a Puka Nacua, but even like, I'm trying to think somebody that went in the 4th round this year that was like Tucker Kraft, for example, somebody that like returned on his 4th round pick ADP, but hasn't been Puka Nacua or Tank Dell. Cause I don't think we should expect that from any class, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, Malik Washington, smaller guy, but at the same time, it's like, I'm a little bit less varied off of like pure size. I mean, maybe just Tank Dell is the outlier, but at the same time, if I'm trusting the landing spot and I'm trusting the coach to be able to work with a guy and has a plan for a guy that's smaller, I'm more willing to listen in. Because again, guys like Demario Douglas and Tank Dell, for example, this past year have really shown that, okay, you may be small, but if your usage is good in college and you land in a spot that's willing to use you as a true wide receiver rather than a gadget guy, that should matter more than the 5'8" label on your height.
Yeah. And I think really getting into the tape this year is like, and obviously we watched the tape last year, but like I really want to think of ranges of outcomes while I'm watching tape this year, because I think I didn't do a good enough job of that last year. And I want to make sure I'm like, okay, when I'm watching these guys, how do they hit and how do they miss? Because, for example, I just outlined, I'm not a big Brian Thomas fan, but I know how Brian Thomas hits. I know how he hits. He goes to a team that needs a deep threat, that even though he's probably only going to be like a 19 to 22% target share guy, he can still be very productive for fantasy.
I would love Brian Thomas on the Cowboys. I just don't think he falls, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I saw him mock to the Colts and I saw him mock to the Jags. Both of those kind of make some sense. I don't like the Colts landing spot, to be honest. I don't think that's a good spot for him, but maybe
your boy
that would be better. But yeah,
your boy Canales
to Carolina. He got hired.
Rappaport closing in on the hire. It's Bucks OC Dave Canales as their new head coach, first time coordinator. This work in Tampa this year, especially with Baker Mayfield, really stood out to them.
Wow. Okay, so first reaction to that is good news for Bryce Young. It's a young offensive mind. I think he can help him. I worry about his ability to lead a whole locker room being a first-time head coach, especially because he was a first-time coordinator this year. He kind of strikes me as somebody that, like Ben Johnson, potentially, he was maybe a year from now, he'd be a head coach, but not like right this second. But I mean, good for Dave Canales, man. Like when I listen to him speak, I'm like, this guy can lead, man. Like I have no issue with that. Like he is a very well-spoken dude. He kind of has like a bit of Robert Saleh energy to him when you listen to him talk. So I think he's going to be good there. I worry about his ability to kind of direct the whole operation.
I heard an interview with him basically like talking about his offensive philosophy coming from Seattle, going to Tampa Bay. And basically what he was talking about in the interview is people might think, oh, Pete told me run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. But that was never the case. It was more so going with the flow of the game. And I know you mentioned this to me, for example, where if Dave Canales is able to operate from a balanced script, from a balanced sequencing perspective, really, really good offensive play caller. The problem is when you force him one way or the other, he can't really adapt. So the way he was talking about it basically summed that up tremendously, because he said, I don't go into a game wanting to do one thing or wanting to do the other. It's more so I mix it, see what kind of works. If that's flowing, if the run game's popping for 6-7 yards per carry on the first 4 runs, why would I veer away from it? Or vice versa. If the run game's not going and I have to lean on my pass game, I'm going to be able to do that as well. So it's really nice to hear him acknowledge that. It's really nice to hear him say, hey, listen, like whatever the defense has given us, whatever where our advantages are on that day, we're willing to adapt to. And if you're a team like Carolina, who really needs direction from a play calling perspective, he's going to be your guy, because your main number one focus at this point is how do we get the best out of our number one pick this past year? How do we get the best from Bryce Young? You needed an offensive play caller that's willing to work with him like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the thing that I actually think this move affects the most is I'm concerned for Baker Mayfield and the Bucs offense. I'm concerned. Like I think the Geno Smith effect that we've seen happen in Seattle, like might happen in Tampa Bay. So I don't love that Baker's going to have a new coordinator, because he finally had some stability for the first time, basically in his entire career going back to Oklahoma. So I don't love that for us as a Bucs fan, but I do think it is good news for Bryce Young, for sure. Yeah. And I think they're going to bring in some guys, and I have a shit ton of Bryce Young exposure, so I should be happy about this for sure.
No, completely agree. I mean, with startup season coming, that's going to be a big time get for him, for sure. By the way, Danny Strong had to address it. So we'll go through a couple more comments, and then we'll do another mock draft. And like I said, for the next one, do the position, so it'll be a little bit better.
Yeah, and I'll make sure the next one's a one quarterback one too, so you one quarterback bros can get yours.
Would you trade Pitts in the 210 for McBride in the 201, 12-team Superflex? You should not be able to get McBride plus for Pitts at this point.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. We were the Pitts guys last year and 2 years ago. Like, Pitts is not worth even conceivably close to what McBride is worth right now. I would do this trade even if it was Pitts in the 201 for McBride in the 210.
Yeah, no, I agree there. When is the next Dynasty Decisions coming out? Most likely going to come out next week. So
yeah, I would say on Monday probably is when it's going to come out. We're like behind the scenes, like me and Danny are trying to rip through as many prospects as we possibly can, because number one, I want to make sure that I'm ahead of my league mates, just like you guys are. Number two, I want to make sure that we get you guys ahead of your league mates by having our draft guide out February 15th for the top prospects. And number three, also, I want to know all of these guys' backstories come the NFL Combine, so that I'm not tempted to watch a player after already having known what he ran at the Combine and knowing what his athletic testing was, because I think that can really skew your opinion on these players. I think you want to know what they are on film before the Combine.
Yep, I agree. Appreciate that, by the way, Jared. I showed it before, but yeah. Prospect fatigue is so bad. It's been hard for me to trade out of the 101. People know Caleb should go first, but don't want him so bad they won't trade. Very annoying.
It's just only going to get worse with Caleb. I have a feeling.
Just take Caleb.
Fatigue.
If you have 101, just take Caleb.
Just pick him, dude. If you're annoyed by the prospect fatigue, just literally pick him. Because if you're rebuilding, he's a great quarterback to rebuild around. If you're not rebuilding, you hold him until, like, for example, I drafted Bijan on a team last year at 101 where I was totally not ready to compete. And I eventually sold him off in that monster blockbuster trade that me and Ron did, where I got Justin Jefferson, 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for CJ Stroud, Bijan, and Kyron Williams. So you kind of have to... You kind of have to just hold the guy. Like, if you don't want him, that's fine. You have too many quarterbacks, whatever. You kind of just need to hold on to him, or maybe sell one of your other quarterbacks if you have a lot of quarterbacks. Yeah,
I would agree there. By the way, it's so funny how that trade worked out. Like going back.
It is. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I kind of got fleeced.
Yeah, you got something other than the 2 first. You got something else too, no?
No, it was Jefferson, the 2 1s and 2 2s.
Gotcha. Okay. But whose first were they? For just Ron's?
They were just Ron's, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So
his team is probably not going to be as good next year, but it's not looking super great, because I think those picks are like 110 or something this year. So,
but you're defending champ, baby.
Yeah. Would you give Rashee Rice in the 108 for Bijan? Our rookie draft doesn't have this year's class because I'm in Debbie. Oh, 100%. Yeah. If like Caleb and all the top guys are out of the class, I mean, Worthy and those type of guys too is the type of guy that I would have ranked at 108, like in a regular Dynasty rookie draft. Yeah, I would 100% give Rashee Rice in the 108 for Bijan.
So I gotta ask you, right? It doesn't have this year's class because I'm in Devi. So if you're in Devi, then you're looking at like the guys that weren't picked. So you're looking at a diluted rookie draft. Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
Yeah,
real
like
talk.
what's best case scenario? Audric Estime is there at 108. Like
Yeah.
it's probably not a great situation.
Real talk, by the way. If this was a normal rookie draft, what would you need on top of Rashee Rice to move off of Bijan? Like what pick number?
Probably 107 or better.
Yeah, like
I think. I mean, you're talking. I got Rashee Rice in the mid fourth round, or the late fourth round. Sorry, of a startup. Bijan went in the early third round or the late second round. So I mean, you're talking about probably about the difference of like a Romo Dunze. I think that's probably fair.
I probably would prefer Rice and Odunze because I'm also higher on Odunze. But once you get to 108,
so I mean, for you, this would be Brian Thomas. For me, this would be Xavier Worthy most likely. So
yeah, and I think I'd be willing to.
I would prefer Bijan given the positional scarcity most likely.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That's a fascinating question though. No better way to spend my lunch break. Just came out here and saw you guys just started. Let's go, Andrew. Let's go. He's got the 101, the 108, the 109, the 201, the 205, the 209, and 4 4s. Fucking crush that draft, brother. Crush that draft. Taking a month off for fantasy, so I'm behind on rookies. I need this video. Yes, sir. Can't wait to hear all your guys' content about the rookies. Would you guys try and trade out of the 101 for the 104 and the 107? Oh, sorry. Chest. So
that's a hell of a return, to be honest. That's a pretty good return.
I mean, if we're looking at it right now, I
wouldn't do it yet because if Daniels doesn't go round one or something, then that would probably hurt you big time.
So you're assuming Daniels is there at 104 then? Like, is who the pick would be?
Oh, I'm assuming Drake will be there at 104.
Fuck, if it's Drake,
dude, the way that I'm seeing people talk about Jaden Daniels, the way that I'm seeing people talk about Marvin Harrison, and the way that we know people feel about Caleb Williams, even if they're a little bit down on him, I do believe that the 104 come rookie draft time will be Drake May for most people. He won't be my 104, but I have a feeling the majority will be that Jaden Daniels should be going higher than Drake May.
Where would you equate Rashee Rice to a pick?
108. I prefer Odunze slightly.
So we got basically 108 plus 108 for Bijan, and then this is 104 plus 1. Yeah.
I mean, 104, you're getting one of Neighbors or Drake May for sure.
Or Daniels.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're getting a back-end second round, early third round startup pick of value, and then the 107 is probably a mid to late fourth rounder of value if it's Romo Dunze or Brock Bowers.
If that's Drake, I'm doing it.
And if we get another, like if JJ or Bo go in the first round too, like that would even put another wrench into this.
Oh, I think we're guaranteed one of them going in the first round. And honestly,
I don't know about that. I don't know about that for sure, but I could see like the Raiders or the Vikings or the Seahawks.
Vikings are the spot for me. I think, honest to God, bro, like as a JJ fan, I am praying that he lands on the Vikings or the Rams. That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Would make some sense for
sure. Like if you're gonna say a spot where he can turn into the next Jordan Love, it would be one of those two spots. Because then you bring in a veteran quarterback. If you're the Rams, you have Stafford. If you're the Vikings, let's just say Kirk signs elsewhere because he doesn't want to be the guy replaced in the future, hypothetically. Even if the Vikings had like a Jacoby Brissett, I think they're probably an 8 to 9 win team next year.
Okay, let's make sure you get into this draft.
Yeah.
Now.
So send me the link. Perfect. Yeah, I have no clue why I didn't get in the other one. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, this one is one quarterback. So for those of you guys joining this one, it is a one quarterback draft. It is not a super flex draft. Please don't be the one that messes it up and takes Caleb Williams 101 or whatever. Although I will say, even in a one quarterback league, I think all three of these quarterbacks have a reasonable case to be taken in the top 8 to 10 picks.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's not like these guys are being elevated simply because they're quarterbacks, because they all can run too, right? Like they all have the mobile ability, and they are going to be valuable dynasty assets even in one quarterback formats.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, using the 110, what running backs would you target for trades? Honestly, too early in the offseason to know that. A and B, like come rookie draft, we'll know a lot more. Like for example,
if I just gave you an off the cuff answer right now, I think the guys that I think are good trade targets, if you're a competitive team, are Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley, because you should get 2 more good years out of those guys.
I wouldn't give the 110 for either of them right now. I would not.
That would be about teetering on the range that I would be willing to give up for them.
Because I'm looking at it, you're probably going to get maybe a first-round wide receiver there, a first-round quarterback, or possibly the RB1 off the board. And the RB1 off the board, depending how high it goes, if it goes top 50,
I
right
know he's
landing
probably
spot,
going to be
taking him over
valued
Bateman.
higher than that. If you could get, say, Josh Jacobs and a 2025 late second rounder for the 110, I think that would probably be fine.
That's more reasonable, yeah.
What about the next tier up of running back? Would you trade the 110 right now for Kenneth Walker or Travis Etienne? Definitely, I would. Etienne, I would. Achan, I would.
Yes, easily.
Who am I missing? I feel like there's somebody in between there that I'm forgetting.
I mean, you're doing it for JT, you're doing it for Kyron, you're doing it for McCaffrey, Brees, Gibbs, Bijan.
Rashad White. Would you do it for Rashad White?
That's about
Without
the cutoff.
Now that might hurt.
I don't think I would. Yeah. So we're looking at realistically right now 8 running backs that I would prefer over the 110 in the landscape of Dynasty. So what that's telling me is if the 110 ends up being running back 1 off the board, he's got to be ranked as a top 10 Dynasty.
Like if Jonathan Brooks goes to the Cowboys in the second round or something, like he's probably going to be a top 10 Dynasty running back.
Yeah. No, I'd agree.
We need one more person for this draft, by the way.
Yep. Hop in. Thank God I have a spot. Okay, yeah. So we went through that. What are your NFL comparisons to the top 6 wide receivers?
This is fun. I want to give this one away. So Marvin Harrison, my comparison for him is Larry Fitzgerald. Your comparison for him is AJ Green, which I think is also a very common one. Both of us have Brandon Ayuk as the comparison for Malik Neighbors, which I also really like, and nobody else seems to be. Everyone just says DJ Moore, and I think that's so lazy.
Very lazy.
You know what's
a fun? Wait, real quick. You know what's a funny one that I kind of thought of the other day? Because he popped in my feed on YouTube. Not as refined as this guy because he's one of the best route technicians of all time.
Antonio
Brown. A little bit of a Chad Johnson feel.
Chad Johnson, yeah, it's not a bad one. I mean, Johnson's a little taller and a little bit more lean.
Their measurements are nearly identical. 6'1",
yeah, I actually, who actually think like, stylistically and from like, if he develops in the next level, could be a good Chad Johnson is Troy Franklin. Because their body type is the same.
Yeah, I mean, Chad is actually shorter. He's like 6 foot 6'1".
Yeah, and I think Franklin's listed 6'3", but he's not going to be 6'3". I think he's 6'1".
Franklin's good, man. Franklin is.
He is good. He is good. Yeah. Romo Dunze is my wide receiver 3. I have him listed as a smaller Mike Evans. Because I think that's kind of his play style. I actually really like that comp. But Michael Pittman Jr. plus is kind of what we talked about already, and that's your comp for him. Xavier Worthy, you haven't graded yet, but my comp for him is Jalen Waddle. I think people are going to default to Marquise Brown, but I do think Jalen Waddle is the comparison for his ceiling, and I think he can get there.
Yeah, real quick, with Xavier Worthy, so I haven't actually numerically graded him, but off of watch, the calm one's going to be Marquise Brown. And I really think Marquise Brown's a really good one.
I think people are going to say Brandon Cooks a lot too. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. For Troy Franklin, I'll let you take it away with yours because you have one that I haven't heard and I actually kind of like.
Yeah, so I tweeted it yesterday that if Jameson Williams and Devontae Smith ran full speed into each other, they would mold into Troy Franklin. Because I think, body style wise and, because he's a deep threat, he has a lot of similarities to Jameson Williams. But I didn't really like Jameson Williams coming out of Alabama because I thought he was like a straight line linear athlete that didn't really know how to run routes. And I actually thought that at first watch of Troy Franklin. And after I watched a couple more games of him, I was quite impressed with his ability to run routes, especially
more nuanced.
When I just think of a typical route tree. Like if you think of the Matt Harmon reception perception thing, obviously he can run the verticals, the posts, the corners, and the comebacks because that's kind of his style of play. But when I watched him on out routes and, skinny posts and slants,
more nuanced than you think.
Like he was actually quite nuanced relative to what I expected. And even on that first game that I watched, the game against Utah is the one that actually kind of turned the corner for me on him.
Yeah, I respect that. Utah's actually the game I charted. So remember when we recorded our 6 to 10, I had him higher.
Oregon State's the first one that I watched, and he didn't have as good of a game against Oregon State. So again, remember this is a 1 quarterback mock, and Fletsky's getting a little spicy by taking Malik Neighbors 101 here.
Ooh.
I can't get there, but I understand it to some degree. My wide receiver 6 right now, because he did say your top 6 wide receivers in this class, is currently Xavier Legette. And Xavier Legette, my comp for him is currently DK Metcalf. So
he's stud.
He's a stud, man. He is you have to watch the film. Like every analytics bro in the world is going to hate Xavier Legette, but you have to watch the film with this dude.
So for reference, we kind of mentioned Brian Thomas. So Brian Thomas would also be in my top 6. That's the big difference between us. So our comps are fun because I know when we said Nico earlier, somebody said he's a better athlete than Nico. I like Nico in terms of like the high end comp. Obviously,
Nico's a tremendous athlete, by the way.
He's a very good athlete. Yeah, no, I think he means in terms of just 40.
Sure.
Like I think Brian Thomas might run.
Yeah, he's probably faster than Nico Collins, but Nico jumped like 42 inches.
Oh no, 100%. Well, the reason why I point that out is mine was kind of like a mix between Martavis and Christian Watson. You know, big wide receivers.
I like Christian Watson. I think Martavis is a very common one too. Everybody, that one's just so.
How he wins
you know
deep.
How, like, if you have a big receiver that runs fast in a straight line who's a deep threat, everybody will automatically say he's Martavis Bryant or DJ Chark if he sucks.
But the thing is, the reason why, so Christian Watson's the main one, but I think what he does much better than Christian Watson is when the ball is in the air. Like Christian Watson, when the ball is in his air, like in the air,
he doesn't have the greatest hands in the world. I drafted Christian Watson today in our startup draft that I'm in. Can you take a guess where I got Christian Watson?
In a startup?
For me to click the button on Christian Watson, where do you think I had to get him?
8th round.
Keep going.
10th.
Yeah, 10-7 is where I got him.
Fuck, eh?
Crazy.
I was thinking like 8-11.
Dotson went the next pick. I took him over Dotson because I already have a very strong wide receiver.
I would easily take him over Dotson.
More for the upside swing. I actually kind of like Jahan Dotson as like a buy right now because he's going to probably have Drake May as his quarterback next year. Ah, shit. I got to pause this. Hold on.
Oh, you did fucking...
I did a snake draft by mistake. Hopefully it just allows me to switch this around. Okay, it did. Okay, perfect.
Dope.
Good thing I caught that right at the last second.
Dope. I know where Fletsky's going, by the way.
Leggett reminds me of a bigger Jaden Reed. I don't see that, to be honest. I don't think they play the same style of game at all. I think you could probably use Leggett as like a big slot receiver, but I think he's actually like the thing that like we're not just drooling.
I think it could be
I hope you guys don't think that we're just drooling over Xavier Leggett because he's big and he's fast. He was very good at running routes, like very good at running routes. It wasn't just that he was big and fast. He was much more advanced than the aforementioned DK Metcalf was coming out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because, like, if you look at their profiles, obviously on a per-game standpoint, DK does lap them, but, like, it's not like DK was, like, this ultra-productive player at Ole Miss
best season numbers, which is what I use when I do the wide receivers to target identical, right? Series. Xavier Leggett's best season was this year, obviously, and he was an older prospect, so sure. But, like, best season yards per route run. Let me actually look at the highlights on his player card right now. And you guys, of course, if you sign up on Flock, when you get the draft guide, you'll see all these like highlights on their player card. 3.15 yards per route run in the country this year. That was 5th. And that was 5th among draftable wide receivers as well. 23.4% target share is a pretty solid number. That's 12th in the class. 0.52 EPA per target. That's 6th in the class. 86.8 PFF receiving grade. That's 5th in the class. 41.4% boom play percentage. So Sports Info Solutions deemed his play to be like an explosive play. That was 3rd in the class, only behind, I think, like Jermaine Burton, who all he does is like catch explosive plays. And I think Roman Wilson was the other one. And then 4.04 yards per route run versus man. That was the best in the class. Literally, his yards per route run versus man coverage was the best in the class. So, there is no metric that I could point to DK Metcalf's career at Ole Miss that even compares to something like that.
I'm going to go Benson. Yeah, I'm trying to find this report. Sorry, that's why I wasn't talking for a little bit. I'm trying to find a report as to what exactly was going on, why he didn't produce prior to this year. And if I remember it correctly, because I saw it earlier.
Well, he was a quarterback in high school. That's part of it.
I think I found this. It was what I found is so basically they had like a coordinator change, or maybe their coordinator went to go accept a head coaching job somewhere. And I think it was Jalen Brooks and one other wide receiver opted out of their bowl game against Notre Dame. That was his breakout game. 7 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. And apparently leading up in practice of that week, him and Rattler really started like honing in together, developing a relationship together. Big game, final game, that bowl game. All offseason, I mean, they basically knew, okay, you're my guy, I'm your guy. Let's go have a big season. And sure enough, he has arguably the 4th best film in the class. It just so happens that, he's an older prospect doing it, right? But,
and Juice Wells, like Antoine Wells Jr., was actually the guy that people thought was going to be the highly drafted receiver.
He got hurt, right?
Team.
He got hurt, and then Leggett, all she wrote.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I wanted Leggett or McConkey in the 205. So sad. Yeah, I love me some Lad McConkey too. You can get me going on Lad McConkey. My comp for Lad McConkey, if anybody is curious, because he's my wide receiver 7. So whoever asked the question with
Good
my
player.
top 6 receivers is Golden Tate is actually my comp for him.
By the way, so Sebastian says there's no way Lad is going in the first round, right?
I think he can.
I think he can.
If he runs in the 4.3s, I think it's possible that he goes in the first round.
Like, if he doesn't go first round, like he might be a lock to go 33 to Tampa Carolina.
Dude, Carolina needs a guy like Lad McConkey so fucking bad, it's not even funny.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, you mentioned Golden Tate, but I mean, we've seen, for example, like if you plug him into the slot right away, like we've seen obviously what Chris Godwin was able to do with Canales, right? So,
well, yeah, think about Amon-Ra St. Brown, what he was able to do going to a barren wide receiver core with the skill set of just get open, catch the football, and make stuff happen after the catch, which is what Lad McConkey has, plus speed, which is what McConkey has. Carolina, that's exactly what they like. Imagine Lad McConkey in the Adam Thielen role this year. Like how much better he would have been than Adam Thielen.
Agreed. By the way, I think that's a perfect fit. Not to mention, it hasn't been announced yet, but I am very, very positive that Jesse Minter is going to follow him to the Chargers. And Jesse
also,
Minter,
shout out to Blake Corum, future Charger.
Second round, I can see it. Real talk though, by the way, Jesse Minter, he's going to be like the next Mike McDonald. I'm telling you that right now. Like that guy is a
DC?
wizard. Yes, he's going to be the DC for the Chargers. I think he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. And I mean, I've heard it multiple times, especially from like Joel Klatt, for example, that Michigan was the clear team that ran an NFL style defense in the entirety of college football. Like, for example, Texas, very talented defense, didn't run NFL style defense.
No.
Alabama, Georgia, like all these defenses very talented, but like Michigan's, you could tell schematically was just at another level because of what Jesse Minter was able to do. He got pressure from anybody on that defense. You know how many fucking nickel blitzes I saw guys coming unscathed because quarterbacks check and quarterbacks saying, oh, it's too high, this and that. He's pointing everything out. The amount of adjustments that this defense has post and pre-snap is phenomenal, to be quite frank. So seeing that at the next level, I'm really curious how it goes. By the way, it's one quarterback. I was going to say Michael Penix.
I mean, McCarthy is still a good value probably in a one quarterback format, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I also like Marshawn Lloyd just playing the day 2 card at running back there.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the running backs, if you guys are wondering why we're not really talking a whole lot about the running back class, is because we have not graded any of the running backs in this class. Like I'm going to be done the receivers probably by this weekend. So next week is when I'm going to be really, if you've been following my Twitter all week, I've been tweeting out receiver related stuff. I'll probably be talking running backs next week. But I will say I did grade Will Shipley going into summer scouting, and I did like what I saw from like a receiving standpoint. So I'll roll with Will Shipley there. I don't think he's probably going to get the draft capital that people want. I think he'll probably be like a 4th, 5th rounder. But he can catch the ball. So
by the way, real talk, I'm excited. You mentioned running backs and Will Shipley because I remember we debated like all of last year, and obviously Donovan Edwards didn't have a great year. Goes back to Michigan. I could see Michigan rolling with Orgy at quarterback, Donovan Edwards at running back, and Donovan Edwards getting like 300 touches this year, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I could see it for sure.
I wouldn't,
dude. I've been saying this, man. Like, I think the 2025 running back class might be what we expected from this year. I mean, a lot of the top guys are literally in it. So Travion Henderson and Raheem Sanders being the top 2 from this year coming into the season that we thought were going to be in this class. I think Ollie Gordon won like
really
led the
good
nation
player,
in
too.
Rushing. He's going to be a good prospect.
Singleton,
the highest graded running back on PFF this year was Ashton Janty from
there's Damian
Boise
Martinez
State,
as well. Damian Martinez as well is in this class.
Well, yeah, and then of
Oregon
course
State.
we know what Quinshon Judkins and Nick Singleton were supposed to be when they were coming out too. So I really do think that I've noticed with this whole transfer portal nonsense and like the NIL money, running backs coming out as juniors is going to become more of a thing of the past because they don't get as much money in the NFL, frankly, as they do in college. So that's kind of wild, but also it should be interesting.
You're talking about Mullings, right? Because Mullings is also a beast, converted linebacker. He's a tone setter, man. He's a tone setter. So, I appreciate you pointing that out too. Because watching Mullings this year, any short yardage situation, him and Orgy were basically automatic.
Yeah, for sure. Alex says contending in a one quarterback half PPR next year of the 103, 107, 111, 112.
Or are you talking about Cole Cabana, right? Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about on the team this year. I know Mullings is coming back, but Cole Cabana didn't play at all this year. But yeah, no, that would make sense. He was a high recruit.
Okay, Cole Cabana's in the middle of something there. Use my picks to package the 111.
I would agree with that.
Jesus Christ,
sorry.
Danny. Use my picks or package the 111 and 12. I mean, in a one quarterback league, 111 and 112. I mean, you got Xavier Legette and Keon Coleman in this mock specifically. That's who went at the 111 and 112. Those are good prospects for sure.
Yeah.
But in one quarterback league, half PPR, I mean, you could definitely talk me into trading those players away for, if you can buy low on Chris Olave for 111 and 112, like I'm fine doing something like that.
Yeah, I completely. Here. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
we
on
got
the clock.
Canales, Carolina. How did the Panthers get him? I think Canales wanted to be a head coach. Everybody in Tampa made a big deal about like, oh, he's never going to leave. Like he wants to stay here. I'm like, dog, there's 32 of these jobs in the world. Like they want to be NFL head coaches. The thing I've been adamant on is that Mike Evans isn't going anywhere, not Dave Canales.
Yeah.
Like I was legit worried that he was going to leave.
Did you see that Scram report that came out yesterday? And then I sent it to you. I'm like, there's no way this is actually real. And you're like, hey, I think you quote tweeted it. No, that Scram report.
Yeah, that was so bullshit, dude. The guy's literally a Bears fan, and he's like, the Bears are the leading the pack for Mike Evans. I'm like, this guy literally just like wants Mike Evans on his team. And he just tweeted that they're like reportedly in the running for Mike Evans, like because he has like a big Twitter following. I haven't actually watched Ray Davis yet. He's old as shit. He's like 25 years old, but he does have a lot of buzz from what I've seen from film guys. So I'll just pick him there at the 405.
Yeah. By the way, Michigan having a loaded running back room is probably going to be the identity of their culture, especially with Sherrone Moore for the next however many years he's the head coach.
Yeah. I mean,
it'll be fun.
This is a fair point, but at the same time, if Canales struggles, that means Bryce Young struggles. And if Bryce Young struggles, that means the franchise is struggling. So if I were the Carolina Panthers, yes, offensive mind is smart. But I probably would have brought in an offensive mind who has developed quarterback. And like, I guess Canales has done that, but he hasn't developed a young quarterback. He's worked with veteran quarterbacks who already had a lot of experience. So maybe a guy that's developed a young quarterback who had more head coaching experience might have been a better fit for this. And I'm not sure. I mean, like Frank Reich hypothetically would have been a good fit. So maybe this is the whole, it doesn't matter who it is. If Canales is a good coach, he's a good coach and he'll help develop Bryce Young regardless.
Yeah. By the way, so Dumpster, check what the frame rate is on your thing, because I noticed YouTube recently will randomly put me at like 480p. So if you check, it'll literally show you. Just move it back up to 1080. It'll help you.
Yeah. If you go to the settings bar, it might have, and you have to just go to advanced or whatever. Sometimes it puts you at like a 360 for some reason.
Yeah, wild.
He said it was Pitts in the 201 for McBride in 210. Yeah, I mean that makes more sense, but yeah, I would still prefer McBride in the 210.
And let me just talk about Pitts, because obviously we're really high on him regardless. But at this point, like you have to say that McBride's a tier above, and the difference between the tier 201 versus 210, like, yes, obviously you're going to prefer the 201, but at the same time, if I can upgrade to McBride, who was extremely productive down the stretch last year, is going to be getting Kyler back, is going to be getting arguably a top 5 to 10 offense, I think, in the NFL, like you got to go with McBride at this point, even though I do think Pitts is going to see a value uptick when they get the new quarterback in. Yeah,
and I will say too, in a one quarterback rookie draft, the 201, the 210 is probably a lot bigger of a difference than in a Superflex rookie draft. Like 210, I mean, you're probably still going to get like a very solid, like you might get like Ladd McConkey, Jatavian Sanders, or QB 4 or 5 at 210, like that got day 2 draft. Like you're going to get a pretty good player there. It's like 201. Yeah, it's probably going to be like a first round receiver or like a top 35, top 40 pick receiver, but it's still going to be a pretty solid prospect at the 210 there. I also have Kyler to stack with McBride if I accept. Yeah, that makes me even more likely to do it if you have Kyler as well. What's up?
So apparently Bobby Slowick is meeting at the Arthur Blank's house.
Oh my God, please give me Bobby Slowick to the fucking Falcons, please, bro.
As a Bucks fan, that's probably like the worst run out. Canales,
so believe it or not, a lot of Bucks fans did not like Dave Canales.
Really, eh?
I can't believe it. People were like, "Oh, dude, like we were better like before." I'm like, "Yeah, we fucking Tom Brady, guys. Like it had nothing to do with our offensive coordinator."
I'm sorry, like again, like you guys, great fucking year. Taking that roster to a fucking divisional round.
I mean, our offensive roster minus the quarterback was like pretty highly thought of coming. I mean, but like Rashad White has developed under this offensive coaching staff. Cade Otton has developed under this offensive. Luke Gadecki was
offensive
horrible
line,
coming into this year, and he's a top 10 right tackle in the league now. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I hope it doesn't hinder our offensive development, because we know Bulls can develop defensive players. Our offense was the side of the ball that needed the development. So Donka says, would you trade the 110 and the 108 for 105 this year? Set at wide
Superflex?
receiver and running back, need tight end and
I'm
quarterback.
doing
I
that
mean,
tomorrow in
105,
Superflex.
you're going to be in the range for one of the quarterbacks or Brock Bowers. So I think I don't want
Or
to do this yet,
neighbors.
though. Like, can you get something back? Can you
Oh,
get like a late second back on
I
top of this? Because then I would 100% do it now.
I mean, easily, but like, honest to God, if this offer's available now, I'm smashing it. If this is a super flex, if it's a one quarterback, I think the 105 is actually the cutoff because 104 would get you. I mean, we're looking here Odunze, Bowers, Marvin, or Malik Neighbors. If that's a super flex, though, like, sign me the heck up. The way you're kind of evaluating this is the 105 is going to be a top 25 overall startup pick. And then the 108 and the 110, like 108, let's just say it's Brian Thomas.
Well,
First
I'll
round
let you know where
Jaguars.
108 and 110 went in the startup draft that I'm in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that works.
I took the 108 at the 6-7. The 105 went at the 3-11.
So 6-7 plus probably like 8-3.
110 went shortly after. I started a bit of a run. So 701 is where the 110 went.
So a 6 and a 7 for a 3. And to be honest, the 105 falling to the end of the third round is actually
exactly.
absurd.
Yeah, it probably, like, people took, for example, like Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor. Those guys went over the 105.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah. We'll run it. Do we want to run a tight end premium one after this? Do you guys want to run one more of these?
Let's do it. I'm down.
Yeah, let's run another one. I'll get that going real quick if you want to answer some questions.
Yeah, I'll breeze through some questions. You do that. I have AJ Brown, Jamar, Garrett Wilson, Rashid Rice. Should I try and shop AJ Brown or hold him? I mean, it depends on the valuation. If you're getting second round startup value, if not, then there's no point. If you have a stud wide receiver core and you can hold him even until in season when a better opportunity arises, I don't mind that. It really just depends how much you're getting back. You sold your first round picks last year to try and win a ship. So thinking about selling AJ Brown, yeah, I mean, like, it all depends. He's still going to be a end of second round startup type of value. So if you're getting lowballed on him, don't sell him. Still a 27-year-old stud. So May is this year's Stroud. He's the overlooked quarterback 3 that should have been quarterback 1 or 2.
100%.
100%. And real talk, dude.
May is a better prospect than Stroud was, bro. He ran for 800 yards last year.
Dude, real talk. So let's go through the scenario here. Caleb goes 101 to the Bears.
Give me Drake May to the Patriots just so everybody lets him fucking fall to oblivion.
I was going to say, dude, if he goes to the Commanders at 2 with Ben Johnson, with those receiving weapons, I think you can make the case for him being 101. I really do. And I've said it multiple times. It's a 1A and 1B at quarterback for me this year. I really, truly believe Drake and Caleb are neck and neck. And I've seen a lot of people say, oh, Caleb's generational. And like, don't get me wrong.
Ian Cummings has Drake ahead of Caleb. And I don't think, when you think about the two of them, if it's 1A and 1B and they're neck and neck, would that also stand to believe that if there's actually attitude and leadership question marks about Caleb Williams, and then you'd prefer Drake May? If they're that close.
I think you can make the argument, dude, genuinely. I like Drake is, I think, the biggest value piece this offseason. If he falls 100%. To 104 to 105 in your rookie drafts, you snag him up just because he's not as outspoken as some of these other
prospects. I still don't understand what people don't find tantalizing about him, bro. Like, I just graded Tez Walker, and I cannot take my eyes off of number 10, dude, bro. Like, he is unbelievable.
It's funny. I wish I could find it, but I remember. So I was talking with my buddy. You know, MV Scouting, Matt Valdovinus on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about the class, the quarterbacks, and he was just saying like, Caleb's my 1. Sign me up for either Jaden or Drake at 2. And somebody responded to him saying, Jaden, yes. Drake, I don't want. And I'm like, why don't you want Drake? And
please watch the tape. If you think Jaden Daniels is better than Drake May, I am sorry, but you are sadly mistaken. If you want to say that Jaden will become better for fantasy because he runs more and he could develop into a great passer, sure. I still disagree. I still think Drake May, again, we're not talking about a pocket quarterback versus a rushing threat. We're talking about 2 rushing quarterbacks, one of which is 20 years old. The other one's 23 years old. And the 20-year-old is better than the 23-year-old.
Okay, wait. I found it. Okay, so I seen this. This was the response that was had. Because even his highlights are boring. I don't care about a lab prospect. Mahomes and Rodgers weren't lab prospects. Neither was Jackson. He doesn't have the it or the wow factor for me. What I heard about Drake.
I watched just the Virginia game on Devontae Walker, and I could create
a highlight
tape of throws for Drake May on that game alone.
Sir, you didn't send me the link.
Oh, here, I'll send it to you.
You're good. But I responded. I said, can't keep my eyes open. I'm falling asleep. And it was that throw. Who's against? Let me find it.
Regardless, he's crazy, bro. Like anybody that thinks that Drake May is not one of the highest ceiling prospects of the last 10 years, and he just so happens to be in a class with Caleb Williams, is crazy. The guy literally, his big time throw rate is like one of the best I've seen from a prospect since I've been scouting. Like the guy makes crazy, crazy throws, and he runs, and he's huge, and he doesn't have any leadership question marks. Like I don't know what people need from Drake May at this point.
I
Like
agree.
what else do we need on this guy?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Oh fuck, I'm trying to find it, man. Where is this tweet? It's gonna bother me. I want to find it because this throw is just absolutely ridiculous. It was against.
I texted you while I was watching Devontae Walker, and I'm like, bro, I can't keep my eyes off of number 10. The guy is literally a surgeon with the football.
Great. It's South Carolina. South Carolina. That's it. Look at this. So I have responded with this. I said, yawn, can't keep my eyes open. Where is the tweet?
I'll keep going through some questions.
Yeah, sounds good. Sorry.
iDub says, how big of a difference is there in value between Neighbors and Odunze? In terms of like startup value, I have Neighbors, I believe, is like my wide receiver 8 or 9 in Dynasty, and Odunze is like my wide receiver 13 or 14. So there's not a huge difference between those two guys, but I would say about a second round rookie pick probably is the difference.
I'd agree with that. Like I had 91 as my grade on Neighbors. I had an 89 on Rome Odunze.
Why is this sideways?
Because I recorded on my phone because I was just in disbelief. So apologies there if you guys are looking for the aesthetic. I'll put this view on. You can flip your heads or whatever, but yeah, I said yawn. Can't keep my eyes open. You remember this play? Did you watch this one?
I do. I do remember this play.
Fuck.
There's a play against Virginia where Drake May is rolling out of the pocket. And you know how Josh Allen like has this uncanny ability to throw a pass before he crosses the line of scrimmage?
Yeah.
Drake May's running out of the pocket because it collapses, and he's running towards the first down marker. It's like 2nd and 8 or something. So he could probably get there, but like out of the peripheral of his vision, he just goes like and sidearms it to Tez Walker, and Tez Walker just picks up the first down. I'm like, dude, how did you even see that? He's not even looking in that direction. He's looking right, and he's on the left.
By the way, people are roasting me for the sideways video.
Yeah, this guy's absolutely brain damaged sometimes. Well,
my bad.
Breaking my neck watching Drake May.
All right, let's randomize this bad boy.
Bobby's slowing to the Falcons, and I hit the gritty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's elite. Okay, yeah, I'm randomizing it again. This one is Superflex, PPR, half-point tight end premium, so should see a little bit more of a premium. Like, for what it's worth, there's like 2 tight ends worth of shit in this class, but
especially at this point, bro. Like,
yeah, like I would be stunned personally if we got a tight end in Dynasty rookie drafts off the board that's not named Brock Bowers or Javian Sanders in the top 35 picks.
Yeah, I would agree. I am a clown for recording it sideways. I did one of these for sure. I put my phone like that. I was recording it. I sent it to you in messages without flipping it. By the way, okay, so you can make the argument here, Drake versus Marvin. They are literally the exact same tier for me, and probably separated by 1 or 2 players in a startup. Because we were just talking about Drake May, because I just excited myself about thinking about the Washington landing spot, I'll just take him in this one.
Yeah, well, and for what it's worth, like if he goes to Washington and then the Patriots wanted Drake or Caleb and they don't want Jaden Daniels and they go with Marvin Harrison to the Patriots, I would imagine that people are going to overthink Marvin a little bit, and he might be available at 103 or 104. Like if he goes to New England, like people are going to be dumb enough to pass on Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, no, completely.
I have AJ Brown, Jamar. Did we already answer this? Yeah, we did. Okay. What are the chances Caleb Williams busts? I know it's always possible, but some guys are just that good. I agree. Like I don't think he's going to bust at all unless it's just like
I'd be shocked if he
total
busts.
head case. Like we don't expect Marv to bust. So like on a scale of 1 to 10, are you at all concerned? No, not really. Like no. I heard Kuiper go on a diatribe about like people shitting on Caleb Williams, and he is not concerned one bit. And Kuiper actually has sources in the league. If people were concerned about Caleb Williams, Kuiper would know.
Well, like we go through all years, like, yes, obviously, kudos to Mel. He does a lot of work in his own right, but a lot of the influence that he has on some of the stuff in terms of rankings, in terms of mocks, is having an ear on what the league is thinking. That's why sometimes we'll see, oh my God, like X prospect is going in the first round. He's more of like a second or third round player. Well, if Mel's mocking him in the first round, he's probably hearing something behind the scenes.
Which is why you're going to talk yourself into JJ McCarthy at 202 because Kuiper mocked him.
If he goes first round, he's an instant smash in the second round.
100%. Yeah. He would probably be the consensus like 108, 109 if he's a first round pick.
Yeah. And JJ's polarizing in that regard because he's going to be.
I'm of the belief that Bo is a much better prospect than him.
Well, I mean, I think you have to compare. One's going to be 24, one's going to be 21. Like, I think that's
true. But I look at what they were asked to do and what the physical tools are. And I think McCarthy has fine tools. I don't think
he's got great tools.
I think Nix has a better arm than him, and he's more athletic and he's bigger.
I honestly think JJ's got better tools. JJ, like, keep in mind, so JJ's got the arm talent. He's got the mobility. The only problem really has been the sample size, in my opinion. Like,
I just talked Lucas into Bo Nix then.
Am I gonna have to go JJ if he falls here and just stack my two quarterbacks
just for the meme?
Yeah, fuck. I'm gonna have to watch Saboystian just absolutely fucking.
Yeah, Brett says, what would you guys say is the ideal spot to pick in a 12-team Superflex startup? Got my first one coming up this offseason. If it's not a third round reversal, I think that the ideal spot to pick is at the top. 101, 102, 103, whatever top quarterback you prefer. I like 101 the most because then you get Allen, but if you want 103 because you don't really care that much and you kind of don't want to be right at the turn, I don't think that's terrible either. I also don't mind being like in the middle of the first round. Like if you get, CJ Stroud or Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or something like that, I don't mind just picking 107 and being kind of at the middle of the first round.
Sorry, I had to point that out because I'm like, what if just Saboystian snipes me on JJ? He's like, I won't do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of pissed. So
he's not. Like, he really isn't.
One QB gang. I have 101 to 104. So you got all four of the top prospects are coming to your team.
Yes.
201, 203, 3. Like, this is one of the most ideal one quarterback pick slots to have ever because you're catching the end of those wide receivers with 201 and 203, and you get the four best prospects in the draft too. So great situation to be in, Austin. He says, I have Jordan Love, Bijan, Brees, JSN, and Komet. I'm going to rip wide receivers, Caleb or Daniels in the second. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good strategy to roll with there. Want to join one, but my lunch break isn't long enough to get it all done. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta rip them on the lunch break. But we'll be live Saturday afternoon doing a Dynasty one quarterback startup because a number of you guys have requested we do a startup draft in one quarterback as well. So hopefully you guys don't work on Saturdays and you can join that. Let me ask you this question.
Fuck, man. Fuck.
Richardson or Drake May? Who are you taking?
Right now, it's got to be Richardson. But 102 Drake May to Washington.
I would take Drake
Ben
May
Johnson there
over Richardson, personally.
I would too. Like, if that ends up being the scenario where it's Ben Johnson, 102 Washington with those receiving weapons, like, it would be tough. But like, we're talking about, that's more so May rising a level in terms of where his startup value would be rather than Anthony Richardson. Because I feel comfortable right now, Anthony Richardson is a clear top 12 overall asset in Superflex. But if that means May is higher, that means that we're looking at the 109 or the 110 off the board. And I really think that's the case because outside of the top quarterbacks and the three wide receivers, like, you can make the case, even the three wide receivers, like, if somebody said, okay, I want to take Drake May over Jamar Chase, I want to take Caleb Williams over Jamar Chase, I want to take one of them over CeeDee Lamb, like, I wouldn't hate that, man, because I do think that they're good enough prospects and they have good enough upside to warrant that. If they reach their upper top percentile outcome, like, they're valued above CJ Stroud.
100%. 100%. Yeah, they absolutely are. And I think you can make the argument, knowing that how good of prospects they were, if they have a CJ Stroud-like rookie season, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes can be like 29 years old, man. Like, you can make the argument that they should be the 101 next year if they have monster rookie seasons.
You can absolutely make the case. I mean, we've talked about it even like with Dak. I love Dak, and I would still be willing to take him in the second round, but 30 years old, like, we're talking about that as like, oh my God, like, he's 30 years old. Like, he's got to fall off in terms of rankings. Well, Mahomes and Allen are validly so the 1 and 2. But they're going to be close to 30 soon. Like, I think Allen now is already 28 years old. Mahomes is 27. You go into next
Mahomes
Dynasty
is older
offseason.
than 27. I think Mahomes is older than Allen.
1996, I think. Or they might be vice versa. They might be flipped. One of them is 95. One of them is 96, I'm pretty sure.
I think they're both 95s, if I'm not mistaken.
Are they both 95s?
Mahomes is 28.
Allen's a 96. Sorry. Flip them.
Yeah. So Mahomes is 28.3 years old. He's going to be 30 like almost next offseason.
Yeah.
So
life comes at you fast.
30 is not a big deal. Mahomes going to play. You're on the clock, by the way.
Oh,
Mahomes is gonna play for a number of years. It doesn't actually matter, but if we're talking about a 22-year-old elite quarterback versus an almost 30-year-old elite quarterback, like it matters in startup value.
Yeah. By the way, how funny would it be if AJ Dillon is done this year, right? Like he's a free agent, right?
Yes. Yep.
Imagine they replaced him with Braylon Allen.
Yeah, pretty much the same exact dude. I actually grabbed a couple short kings for my team here. Well, not short, I guess, but just small kings. Xavier Worthy and Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving is kind of like the new school like running back that we're all getting kind of humbled by, man. Like we were lower on A-Chain, lower on Gibbs. I'm going to start caring a little bit less about the size of these running backs when they can catch the football like Bucky Irving.
And I feel good about it because I was a little bit higher respectively on both those guys. But I agree. I think even me, like I couldn't have expected Devon Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs to be as high they are on the hierarchy of running backs as they are now. So
Gibbs, I expected this was in the range of outcomes, but
after year one, RB2 overall was like still a projection. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Because like when he got drafted, like before he got drafted, sorry, because obviously going 12th overall changes the range of outcomes there. But like I thought, okay, maybe he goes at the back end of the first, early second round. Like I didn't think he'd be valued above like Breece Hall if I knew Breece Hall would.
There's no I would have said like he probably won't pass Taylor either until Taylor's like 25 or 26.
Man, I mean he's well deserved of it, man. He's
well like if you call him the RB1 in fantasy, I'm not going to argue with you. I think it's Bijan.
I agree.
But, I think Gibbs has an absolute case for it.
So I want to point this out because we actually disagree on this. They're both Texas guys. I prefer AD. Corey prefers Worthy. Honestly, I think if AD reaches his upside, like we're looking at T. Higgins Jr.
So I agree.
He's very volatile.
Both players. I still agree that that's true. I still think that Mitchell has a higher ceiling than Xavier Worthy, but the range of outcomes for Worthy is significantly tighter. Like AD Mitchell could wash out of the league in 3 years. Like his bust potential is that high. I think
I'm a little bit more worried about Worthy's floor than
I'm not worried about Worthy pretty much one bit because when I watch the dude, I know he's a fucking straight baller who loves football.
Yeah. I mean that would be the difference.
He is unbelievable route runner. Unbelievable. People like just think he's fast and like nobody lets fast receivers be good at route running. You're either Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper who aren't that fast, who can run routes, or you're Jamison Williams. Like you could be fast and run routes at the same time.
For sure. By the way, where did we leave off in terms of the comments? I'm trying to fucking figure it out.
I'm up here, right here. Whatever running backs the Ravens take round two, dude. I'm starting to maybe I'm setting myself up to get hurt again, but like, why do I think J.K. Dobbins is going to come back on a 1-year deal and just scorch the NFL? I don't know why. I'm so like blinders for J.K. Dobbins. It's not even funny. But I don't know.
Dude, you've been to be fair,
I've been a J.K. Dobbins truther since I thought he was literally the second best running back in the 2020 class behind Jonathan Taylor. So
I respect it. You know, I talked about Malik Washington. Is he available right now?
And also, like, we can't ignore the fact that if Dobbins doesn't tear his Achilles, he probably is a top 5 running back in fantasy this year, right?
Oh, dude, yeah, probably.
He would have smashed this year. So dude, part of me thinks, like, if he had that kind of upside, like, why are we just throwing him aside? And Achilles tears for running backs, of course, but I don't know. If he had that kind of upside within him, he must still have some kind of value.
Man,
I'm scared.
I've learned enough.
I'm not saying this confidently. I just I wouldn't be shocked if a year from now we're like, wow, J.K. Dobbins, big bounce back from the Achilles tear.
Yeah. Real talk though. I mean, at this point, like with all the data we have, I mean, we said the same thing about Cam Akers. Is he a good enough player to overcome it? It's like
I would love for the Bucs to sign J.K. Dobbins. To be honest, in free agency, he's not going to be expensive. He's coming off an Achilles tear.
Yeah. But I want to point this out to you because I think John makes a great point. Worthy makes the hard plays look easy and the easy plays look hard is the best way to describe him.
So the one thing I will say about his drops is that he did get a lot better in that area this year. And he was also good in that area in 2020 as well. It was just last year. And if you guys don't know this, do you know why he dropped so many balls last year?
I mean, you're going to say
a broken hand half the season.
Oh, fair. Okay. I didn't
know
which
that
direction you're going.
I'm literally a Texas fan. I didn't know that until I was watching his film. Because before I watch the film on these guys, I like to research any kind of context that might have come up or whatever. And there was an interview with Sarkisian. He literally said he broke his hand midway through his sophomore year.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna go literally anywhere with that, to be honest.
No, he had a
Um,
broken hand.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Raptor pointed it out too. So you know where it's up there, by the way. So I'll let you go that. I just saw
Yeah.
Raptor pointed that out too.
And again, like because I'm a Texas fan, like it's easy for me to be biased on Xavier Worthy, but I'm not biased on AD Mitchell or Jatavian Sanders. Like I recognize both of those guys are pretty volatile prospects.
Yeah, again, I'm a lot lower comparatively on Worthy because I do think his floor is lower. But I mean, at the same time, like it's undeniable if he hits a ceiling, like you're still looking at one of the most dynamic receivers in the league. So,
Dude,
um,
there's FF Snoog, one of my buddies on
yeah.
Twitter. He tweeted out a thread of Xavier Worthy, bro. Like if you watch the clips that he pulled, man,
Oh
you're gonna
yeah,
be like, dog, this guy is a
dude.
unbelievable route runner
I
when you watch these clips.
I was messaging him with the Brian Thomas ones, and like that's kind of like how I thought when I saw the Brian Thomas ones on my feed. Like, dude, like Brian Thomas is my guy. Xavier Worthy's your guy.
My
It's kinda
problem
where
with
we're at with
Thomas
it.
is that lowlights for Xavier Worthy are not nearly as bad as they are for Brian Thomas.
Yeah,
And I don't even mean just
even
lowlights like bad
dude,
drop or
we're talking
whatever.
about
I mean, as in like he is
games.
vanished
Yes,
off the face of the
yeah,
earth when he's
games.
not getting the
Oh,
ball.
I'm on like even as a fan, I watched 4 games, including the Alabama game, and I'll just say for free, if you guys are not Brian Thomas fans or Brian Thomas haters, the Alabama game is your proof of that because that was one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. Like just play in, play out, not creating any separation at all. Like
Arnold and McKinstry like baby boyed his ass.
it was
Outside
bad.
of one
It was bad.
contested catch across the left sideline that he got on McKinstry, he pretty much did nothing the whole game.
But for as bad as he was in that game, when I watched the Florida State, and the Wisconsin games, it's the complete opposite.
I don't think he played well against Florida State either.
I think he did. I think he did.
I don't know. He's difficult, man. Because I get it.
Very.
I really do get it with Brian Thomas. I understand why people say it because 6'4", 205-pound guys shouldn't be able to be as elusive and as athletic as he is. Like not just like pure raw straight line speed, but also like agility. He has very good athletic gifts, but I am concerned. His profile isn't that good. Like I don't know why Dynasty analytics bros are all over Brian Thomas because his profile, at least the way I look at things in terms of market share production and stuff, isn't very good. And it's not just because Malik Neighbors was there. It's also because he wasn't able to really command that many targets.
Very efficient on his targets, though, for what
he was. Dude, his EPA per target is phenomenal. Like one of the best in the class.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm pretty sure I looked at the splits, and obviously he scored 17 touchdowns in I think 12 or 13 games this year. And those 17,
I swear to God, 11 or 12 of those
like,
were blown coverages, though. Like when you actually watch,
I wouldn't say that
like
high. I mean, the one against Florida State was like I'm not going to deny that that was
really
a blown
bad.
That was a blown coverage. But I mean,
really
even outside of that, though, I think on the play, obviously broken coverage, you can't really develop much from like his separation skill on that. But in the open field, he looked really calm. He looked really collective. Looked really fucking smooth, which is what I noticed from that. And even when you take away that from the game, I thought he played a good game against Florida State. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I mean, the Wisconsin game, for example, have you watched the Wisconsin game?
I did, yeah. He just added that one, right?
Yeah, fucking dominant.
Yeah, no, he was really the point where he lost points for me was
appreciate the support, Corey. Appreciate the super chat.
I appreciate it.
Glad to bring out the content, brother.
The hands aspect of it, he has really good hands, I would say, but he did have a couple contested situations that he lost where he shouldn't be losing. Like maybe this is
talking about the Florida State. You're talking about the
maybe
fourth
this is
down
mean of me to do, but when I see a big receiver, bro, like I grade you harder in contested situations. Like you shouldn't be losing those.
Yeah, fair, but I think you also have to balance that by grading them higher in speed, acceleration type of
Sure.
thing.
Yeah, no, I do. Because when you're running a 4.45 down the field on a go route, it's way different than if Xavier Worthy ran a 4.45, which he does not. He runs in the 4.2s. But hypothetically, like a small receiver running a 4.45 is not nearly as dangerous as a 6'4" guy running a 4.45. So yeah, I do balance it by doing that. It's just like my weaknesses against Brian Thomas were he's raw. 2, he has a limited route tree. He ran only vertical route stem pretty much the entire.
To be fair,
how many times did you see this guy actually make sell a cut on his route? Like it was mainly verticals,
I did
comebacks, and curls.
I thought his speed cuts were really good for his size, like being able to stride, being able to get natural separation on his break. I noticed
double moves, go routes, comeback routes. Like he did a great job of those, but I didn't see him run like over the middle, like zone beaters, like ever.
Well, I mean, he cooked on a lot of digs. I noticed. It's just a lot of times Jaden Daniels was not getting to that read because he
Yeah,
was just
I
tucking in
mean
and running
Daniels
it.
missed him on a number of like
Like,
other.
you know how many times him and Neighbors were open on digs and Daniels was just already running by the
I feel
time
like
they were
I've
open?
watched Jaden Daniels and graded him already after watching Neighbors and Thomas because I'm like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no way that like Drake. And also, when I've watched Tez Walker, I've watched plays where like an anticipation throw got Tez Walker the ball when he didn't deserve it because
Yeah.
Drake May's that good. And it's very obvious to me when I
It's
watch
the
Jaden
exact
Daniels
opposite.
that he benefits way more than
Oh.
Drake May did. Like Drake May, like Jaden Daniels might have won the Heisman Trophy and might have been like one of the best players in college football this year, but that was because of his rushing. It was not
Yeah.
because of his passing at
Oh,
all.
no, I completely agree. And again, like, is that to say Daniels is a bad passer? No. Is he on the same level as Drake May?
Not
Absolutely
even
fucking
close.
not.
Not even
Absolutely
close.
fucking not.
And if you gave Drake May, Brian Thomas Jr., and Malik Neighbors, buddy, he would have eviscerated his passing numbers.
By the way, funny enough, you know how we were talking about how Troy Franklin, despite the limited route tree, ran nuanced routes?
He did.
That I felt about that with him and Brian Thomas. So that's the disconnect, is that Brian Thomas, he didn't think was as good of a route runner.
I didn't, because when I watched him against man coverage, specifically against Alabama, I thought McKinstry and Arnold fucking strapped him in. Like, I thought anytime it was a one-on-one man coverage, aside from the touchdown on the goal line that he ran the shimmy slot slant or whatever that he ran against McKinstry, and the contested catch that he made against McKinstry along the sideline, that was pretty much the only time he got the better of those two guys. Any other catches he had in that game were like bubble screens and like curl routes where they were playing like, you know, way off coverage or whatever. Like, it was mainly anytime he had to beat one of those guys one-on-one, he couldn't do it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's going to be the detractor game, like, that you go back to. Again, that was out of the 4 I watched, that was the only game I really thought, okay, you know what, he definitely struggled here, but I'm willing to overlook it more because I'm like, well, I mean, how many people did Kool-Aid and Arnold do that to?
McConkey fucking crushed him, for starters. I mean, when he played Alabama, he wiped the floor with them on every single route.
On the limited routes he ran.
Yeah, but he was hurt that game too.
No, I know. Well, I pointed it out to you, and I to be fair, like,
he's limping on half the plays, and I'm like, dude, McConkey's wiping the floor with the. Mitchell had a better game than Thomas against Alabama too.
No, I agree. Real quick with Ladd, I didn't really see that in that game, to be honest. But then, like you said, he was also hurt, so like I don't take as much fucking stock into it. Period. But when I watched that game, I thought he got manhandled on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, no, he did.
Like when I was starting it.
It's so easy to compare these big receivers against each other.
Oh, I was talking about Ladd.
I was talking about Mitchell versus Coleman versus, you know.
I was talking about Ladd. Like I thought he got pressed up pretty fucking badly in that game. But then again, like I said,
he actually was like literally limping. And honestly, I didn't. Maybe you got to show me some specific plays that you saw. But
like, I'll show you the charting off film.
Beck missed a couple times, like open.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It was more so, like I said, only in press man situations I noticed that. But regardless,
it's nice to get to watch these guys against the same top 2 corners. Like, these are probably the best 2 corners in the class, right? Or at least 2 of the 3 or 4 best corners in this class.
Easily. Like I mean, like I said, I really like AD, and one of the games I watched.
No, Mitchell wiped AD. Mitchell wiped those guys.
They
absolutely cooked them.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously got the RPO slant that he got, the touchdown there. He had that big catch on, I think it was McKinstry on the sideline.
Yeah, it was against McKinstry on the sideline. Actually, I kept calling that Brian Thomas's catch. That was 100% Mitchell that I was.
It was AD. Yeah, that's why I thought you
not Brian Thomas. Yeah, you're correct about that. But he had number 9 on
the double move go.
McKinstry or it wasn't McKinstry or Terry and Arnold, but the double move that Mitchell caught the touchdown on was also disgusting.
Filthy. All right, so let's get through some comments because we are behind, and I want to make sure everybody's answered before we sign off. So where did we leave off here? Let me look. It was higher.
I'm looking right here.
Georgia fan Leggett was getting busy against us. Would have picked Daniels.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Leggett had a monster game against Georgia. Really good game against them, and he had 2 like very difficult contested catches against who's the corner that they have? Kamari Lassiter. And he messed him up on the line of scrimmage a few times. There was a press rep that we're going to break down in our film review of Xavier Leggett. Lassiter's in a blender on this press rep against Leggett. It's crazy how bad he got beat.
Yeah, no, it's pretty remarkable. Like, which game let me just check what game I charted for him.
If you haven't watched
Florida.
Yeah, he had a great game against Florida too. Dude, Leggett, I really had problems poking holes in Leggett's film. Bro, like, I'm not gonna lie, I had problems poking a hole in his film.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I had. So these are the notes from the Florida game specifically, right? So box score, 6 targets, 5 catch, 110 yards. Advanced stats, 71.3 PFF, 3.33 yards per route run, 8.4 yards after catch per reception, 100% contested target to catch rate, meaning like when the ball was in the air, it was just his ball, period. Explosive athlete, big time frame, big time physical yak threat. Pleasantly surprised with route running chops. Good releases.
Very pleasantly surprised with route running chops.
And leverages his frame well, I noticed. Like some big wide receivers, they just run it and like they're at their fucking size and like they're working at that level. Like I see him dip around corners, get that leverage, use his body. Like I was really impressed with how nuanced he was. I thought it was going to be like a Jonathan Mingo situation we talked about. Not even remotely that case. 70-30 player. Like I said, like when the ball's in the air, contested wise, he's coming down with it point blank, period. Unstoppable on deep crossers. I'm sure you probably noticed that too. Unstoppable.
The two big catches he had against Georgia were one he had like he fully extended it. He literally mistimes his jump across the field. I think Rattler ended up like doubling back to him and he finds him across the field. And Leggett mistimes his jump and still mosses the guy by 2 or 3 yards.
So the cons real quick. 1 year wonder. Poor effort as a blocker at times, basically inconsistent.
I didn't see that. I thought he was a good blocker.
At times, I noticed it was poor effort, but like you said, when he was engaged, he was a good blocker.
Yeah,
it was more so an effort.
So it's hard not to be a good blocker at his size.
It was more so an effort thing. I noticed. Sometimes he would take a play off and like he'd miss his block. It's just like you're gonna see about every wide receiver in this class for the most part.
Except for McConkey, pretty much. That was the only guy I didn't see. I like it's Georgia, man. Like you're gonna block every single play.
Like the specific play cons are so funny because like literally it wasn't much of an issue at all. Misses block on edge that results in screen getting blown up. That was
I saw that play. I know a player
against Florida. A bit slow working through traffic on short crosser, gets covered by the time he finds space. Want to see him influence middle field defender a bit more on high-low crosser. Teammate still catches it.
Yeah. I noticed with South Carolina, they didn't design the route concepts very well either.
Not at all.
Yeah. I've actually noticed that with North Carolina too, which I'm now understanding why Drake May had a bad season. Cause like there's a play where Tez Walker and number 5 for North Carolina are lined up like literally across from each other, like right beside each other. And they're both running a go route and they're running into each other on the route. I'm like, who the fuck?
I saw that one.
I'm like, who designed this offense? Like they're literally, and Walker's open by the way too. And they're like running into each other.
I know who designed the offense. Playoff Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, literally. So
there's no way
the weaknesses that I saw with Xavier Leggett that I had written down is, I mean, he's going to be 23 on draft night. That's a huge weakness. 1 year wonder production and mental mistakes. I saw a number of plays where I was just like, why are you doing this? Like, this is not what you should be doing on this play. And I'm like, I'm not a film expert. I'm sure film experts probably find more mental mistakes that Xavier Leggett was doing. So that's concerning because he's an older prospect. You'd think he'd be a little bit more, football intelligence wise, he'd be further along than Xavier Worthy, for example, who's a junior, but Xavier Worthy has played more games than him in college because he was a starter as a freshman. So that's kind of the difference between those two guys. And they're like literally back to back in my rankings. I have them 4 and 5. So
yeah, no, I agree. And Leggett, like a lot of people are going to point to the analytical profile, but if people are going to tell you I cannot take Xavier Leggett in my rookie draft, no matter if he's there in the second round, like you don't listen to that analysis.
And
that means
by
that
the way,
didn't watch him play.
Exactly. The wide receivers to target and avoid video. What did I discover in that video? If anybody remembers, comment it down below. Best season production matters more than age-adjusted production. It does. People want to point to red flags when you're redshirt senior producing against smaller competition. But the data shows the wide receiver ones in the NFL, there's more guys like that than there is guys that performed at a age-adjusted appropriate level.
I mean,
like if you have a great season, it doesn't matter when it comes. It's more important than having a great season young.
Well, that you want to see natural progression from players is what I view it as. If your player is one that peaks in year 1 and never gets better, well, guess what? What does that tell you for the work for their work level coming into the NFL? What does that tell you for their work ethic? Coming into the NFL. Like for example, like I hate keep going back to this, but I think Rondale Moore's like the poster child for it. Where
100%.
had that big year 1.
A good example for it too.
Yeah, no, like you having that good year one is obviously crucial and will get you in the minds of a lot of people. But if you're not able to build off it, I think we have to view
People
that as
might
a
say that
negative.
about Worthy, right? You could say
Yeah,
Worthy's best season was his freshman year. You can say that, but it's not like he got worse. His
yeah,
production was worse, but he didn't get worse.
yeah. No, that's fair. Leggett has strength like another South Carolina Gamecock and Debo. I also like obviously
Not
I
a
think
horrible comp for him. I don't
I
think
was
he
gonna
runs
say
the same types of routes that Debo runs, but I do
yeah.
think he kind of looks like Debo a little bit when you see him with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, no, I agree there. Polk, McMillan, or Burton. So
Polk.
I was going to ask you which one because I haven't gotten to the
I haven't
Washington
graded
receivers yet.
either of these three yet, but we
You
did
watched
watch
Polk and
one game
McMillan.
on Polk already, and I think Burton is
Yeah,
just a deep threat. He's probably not going to
yeah.
develop into much more than that. McMillan, he's kind of, I don't know. I like, I can't get a good read on McMillan, man. Like, I honestly don't know what to expect from him. He's kind of just like, meh. Like, he kind of just looks like a number 3 or 4 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah,
But with Jalen Polk, I think he actually has some legitimate upside. He just needs to work on his route running a little bit.
yeah, for sure. Lad injuries are a concern. Has had back
Yeah,
issues since high school.
McConkey, I documented in his profile that he's got some injury concerns.
Minter was with McDonald in Baltimore at some point. Yeah, so they both came from Baltimore. Funny enough, so this is the story about that, right? 2020 COVID season, Michigan goes 2-4. That was when Joe Milton was starting. They canceled the season basically prior to them having to play Ohio State. And if you remember, Ohio State ended up playing in the national championship. That was when Tough Borland was trying to guard Devontae Smith. You remember
Oh yeah,
that?
I remember
So that season, Michigan had their worst year, and all offseason it was like, are they going to can Harbaugh? Like, what's going on? Like, you can't run it back with this. There's like no upside here. Like, something's got to give. Harbaugh's got to adjust to the next level. And that offseason, he completely revamped his coaching staff. I believe that's when they brought in Sharon Moore. That's when they brought in Mike McDonald to be the DC prior to the next year having Minter come when Mike McDonald went back to John. And the reason being is he brought all of these Baltimore Ravens coaches, these interns, these analysts that were working for his brother. His brother basically said, hey, go revamp the University of Michigan. I'm going to give you our analysts. You can develop them into NFL coaches. And when we need them back, we can exchange them back. So that's why Mike McDonald is now one of the hottest, probably the hottest defensive mind in the entire NFL. Jesse Minter, I think you can make the case, was the hottest defensive mind in college football, now going to be the DC for the Chargers. So it's really all coming together. Those guys got the opportunity in a bigger scale to work for Michigan. Michigan obviously benefits because they become the poster child for college football, 3 losses in the last 3 years. And obviously now those guys have parlayed that into NFL coaching jobs, legit DC jobs. And I think Mike McDonald, like we've talked about, is probably going to be the next head coaching candidate. So really nice seeing that relationship there.
Yeah, no, for sure. A couple of people are asking about Keon Coleman because we haven't mentioned him at
Yeah.
all. And we've talked about pretty much every other big wide receiver in this class.
He's interesting.
I agree. He does have a lot of potential. And one thing I really want to caution people on is prospects like Quentin Johnston who have fake upside, where you just look at him and because he's big and athletic, you say he has a lot of upside. You need to see it in action and you need to see it in flashes. And you do see it in flashes with Keon Coleman, which is good. But at the same time, Keon Coleman's got a lot wrong with his profile as well. He didn't really command a whole lot of targets. His downfield ability is good because he's a big receiver and, you know, he has long strides and that kind of thing, but he's also not like a 4-4, 4-3 runner. Like he's probably like more in the 4-5s area. And most of the time he's contested on his targets. He's not creating consistent separation.
Is my face frozen for you?
Yeah, it is 100%.
Okay. Let me change that for now.
And now I can't hear you.
Yeah. Okay, I guess my PC was just doing that. Okay, 1 sec, and then we'll get
Danny
back
and
to comments.
technical difficulties go together very well.
I wanted to add on Keon because, like you said, I'm a fan of him. Now the problem is I don't think he's as refined as the other big wide receivers, which is why I have him lower in that pecking order. But I still think like if he's a top 10 wide receiver for me in this class. I charted his game against Clemson. Really was a fan there. I wrote George Pickensy here because, like we've kind of talked about, in flashes he shows this elite upside. But the majority of the game, it's like, why isn't this guy more involved? Like, why isn't he getting the targets that we could realistically see from this guy? And in the Clemson game in particular, he got the targets. He got 9 targets in that game. More so talking from a macro level across the year. You'll have games where it's like, why is he only getting 4 targets? Why is he only getting 5 targets? And I think, in my personal opinion, of the receivers with that question mark, like AD, like Brian Thomas, I think he's the least progressed compared to those guys. I think he's more progressed than Devontae Walker, and he's also a younger player, which is crazy to say. But I do think that I prefer those other big-bodied wide receivers to him.
See, I disagree on Thomas, but I do agree on. No, actually, hold on. Who did you say?
Thomas,
Mitchell and
AD,
I actually
Franklin.
so I have Coleman rated the highest of this group.
Really?
I think yeah. I
Franklin,
told you I kind of turned the corner a little bit on Coleman the second time around, and I think it's mainly because if I'm going to put all my eggs into a basket of a prospect that needs development, there's a number of really good green flags on Keon Coleman's profile. Number one, he was productive last year as a 19-year-old at Michigan State, then goes to Florida State, is very productive. And then obviously the numbers when Jordan Travis got injured and all that kind of stuff. Jordan Travis, by the way, when you watch the film on Keon Coleman, dude, he probably left 400 yards and 6 touchdowns on the field. Like Jordan Travis sucks, bro. Like
he's not very good at all.
So they might have been an undefeated football team, but it's because of Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson, all the guys that they have. It is not because Jordan Travis is a very good quarterback. So when I look at Keon Coleman, my comp for him is a big-time throwback, actually. A guy who is a top 5 pick in his draft class, infamously
what years?
A pick in the draft class of a very prominent draft day slide as well. So let me see if you can guess based on that clue.
Is it a receiver that worked out?
I'll give you another clue. This receiver went to a school that you're very familiar with.
Braylon Edwards.
Yeah, Braylon Edwards was my comp for Keon Coleman.
I knew that right off the bat when you said that, because a top 5 pick wide receiver, Michigan. For what it's worth, Braylon Edwards at the start of his career was a fucking dog.
He was. No, he was. And that's why I think Keon Coleman's like a good comp for him, because Braylon Edwards won with like physicality and size and contested catches. It's like the framework is there for him to get better as a route runner, which is, it's not always there. Like I didn't think it was really there with Quentin Johnston, and I really do think it is there with Keon Coleman if he gets in the right situation.
Chiefs and Lions Super Bowl futures. What are my chances in your opinion? I mean,
buddy, I hope that's the case, because I have a playoff best ball team with a Chiefs Lions Super Bowl live in the gauntlet right now. So I really hope that this happens for you.
I mean, I have Chiefs Niners, but if you were to tell me that the Niners didn't make the Super Bowl, I think that would make me just as happy as my 4-man lineup potentially banking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the 750 if I advance, but if the Niners lose, I'll be just as happy, to be honest. I think a Niners loss is worth about $700 in my morale.
Yeah. Have Lamar, A-Rich, and 101. Do I draft Caleb? Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not really probably worrying about it right now, but you always take the best player available.
Where'd you find that, by the way?
Like I said, was Braylon Edwards. My comp for Mitchell is actually George Pickens, but I think you could probably put George Pickens on either player because they both kind of play like him a little bit. Coleman, by the way, of these big receivers, was the best at the catch point of all 3 of them.
Which ones?
Coleman, Mitchell, Thomas. Coleman's the best at the catch point.
Coleman and Thomas.
He's the basketball player. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, I honestly thought Brian Thomas was really good at the catch point too. They're all.
I didn't think he was nearly as good as Coleman. I think he's good at the catch point. I don't think he's as good as Coleman.
Fair. Wait. So you kind of skipped down a little bit because we do have a couple here. Got offered Herbert 103 and 105 for Josh Allen and AJ Brown. Thoughts? Have only Mahomes and Allen, and wide receivers are Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Waddle, fillers at Superflex tight end premium. So basically, they're equating this. 105 is about AJ Brown for you, give or take. Jane Daniels, Malik Neighbors versus AJ Brown's about the same tier.
I would prefer Brown, but yeah.
Okay, so Herbert 103 for Josh Allen, Herbert and Drake May / Marvin. You're looking at the 106 in the startup and probably a 1-2 turn pick.
I'll take the Herbert one.
I'm taking Herbert
side, I think.
Herbert and Marv / Drake, or maybe even 2 Herberts, or maybe Herbert and Josh Allen.
Yeah,
it's making a joke.
2 Herberts. I get you. There you go. Herbert, Drake May, and if you walked out of this with Herbert, Drake May, and Malik Neighbors, I would feel quite good about that.
Yeah, facts. So where did you how did you get there? Did these comments not show to you?
I think I skipped down a little bit.
Okay. Do you prefer Bowers or Odunze in a tight end premium? I'd go Bowers still, even though I really like Odunze. But I mean, Bowers
in tight end premium, I prefer Bowers. But I think honestly, I mean, when we did the tight end premium draft, Brock Bowers went at 103. That's too early for me. I think the difference between Brock Bowers in a tight end premium and a non-tight end premium is 105 106 or 107. Like that's the highest Bowers is going in my opinion. I personally would not take Bowers over Malik Neighbors or over Drake May or over Marvin Harrison, especially in any capacity, unless it was like a 2 tight end premium potentially.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which like, why are we doing that?
Why can't I? Okay, here. I'm the 101. Let's go. Is Bobby Sloak's brother on Miami's coaching staff watching Hard Knocks in season? I think I saw his name. I had no clue about that. If it is, that would make sense considering he probably followed McDaniel there. JJ McCandoff is quarterback 5. He's 4, but I mean for me, but at the same time,
McCandoff. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean that's fair criticism. Like you didn't see him have to holster an offense like a Penix, like a Nix, like the other quarterbacks had. So, I mean, if you want to have him at 5, I really can't blame you, honestly.
I would have him at 5. I think that Bo Nix is a better prospect than him.
Like, I would take JJ because he's still younger, and I think he's got a higher upside. But at the same time, it's like if you want to win now quarterback and you're like Denver, like I could see Denver at 12 taking Bo Nix.
I could see Raiders taking him too. I think the Raiders.
That would make sense.
Bo Nix is a good prospect, which is gross because he qualifies for Social Security.
Facts.
Yeah, he is. He is big old. That is true. But Jaden Daniels is old too. So I mean, people are gonna not hold it against Jaden Daniels. They shouldn't really hold it against Bo Nix that much.
Third round reversal. I'm hoping for 6 so I can take Herb. Yeah, that would be huge. 106 there. One of my leagues I'll need to do that. Took over an orphan and the team has 0 quarterbacks. Yeah, you're gonna need to stock up on those Qs, brother. Oh yeah, let's go. It's a joke, by the way, Mike. He's just trolling you. Are they just going back and forth in chat right now?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Braylon Allen, easy 301. Come on now. Am I too high? I'm not like super high on Braylon Allen. I think everybody goes a little way too hard with the like his biggest redeeming quality is that he's like the youngest player ever to come out for the draft. Like that's the biggest quality that we like about Braylon Allen, because I mean, when you watch the guy, and I haven't graded him yet, but I'm sure when I grade him, it's going to show up because I have watched him on like 2 different occasions now in summer scouting and throughout the season. He doesn't run like he's 240 pounds. Like he runs like kind of like how Najee Harris runs a little bit, where it's like, he doesn't know that he's big, so he never trucks anybody. He's like trying to make people miss at his size. Dude, like kill somebody. You're 240 pounds.
Startup 32-man league, half PPR, 1 quarterback, tight end premium draft in from the 103. Who are you taking? Whoever falls between
man league.
Whoever falls between Jefferson
grass in a 32-man league. Bro. Whoever touch grass format.
Hey, whoever falls between Jefferson, Lamb, and Chase is just going to be my pick. Like I don't play in 32-man leagues, and I don't wish to ever do so, but I think I'm just going to go with whichever wide receiver falls. Do you take a quarterback in that league? Like, do you take Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or Jalen Hurts?
No, I think if I was 104, I might consider it, but at 103, I wouldn't.
I think I'm on the same page there. If Braylon Allen goes to the Packers or Raiders, I would be hyped. Yeah, that'd be pretty.
Packers would be a nice spot for him for sure. I think that would work.
Jake, I completely disagree, Robert.
We do. Where's the basis for that take, bro?
Appreciate it, Kerry William. Yeah, I mean, like I can see
why people are undervaluing
Walker
a little bit as well.
I'm not there. Again, he's a. I think when I had him, my wide receiver 12, I want to say. I just think he's a less refined version than some of the bigger wide receivers, and he's also older than them. So it's like,
yeah, he's kind of just like I texted you, I was like, he's watered down Brian Thomas, who I'm already not really that big of a fan of. I think both of them are kind of one-trick ponies, ex receivers who are probably going to be better number 2s in the NFL than they would be develop into number 1s. Whereas A.D. Mitchell and Keon Coleman, I think, and Xavier Legette, who are big receivers, I think are project number 1 receivers. But I think Thomas and Tez Walker are number 2 receivers. I think that's the way I look at both of those groups of guys.
That is fair.
How much does landing spot affect Odunze versus Neighbors? That's a good question. I mean, if Neighbors went to, let's say, what's the worst landing spot? The Giants, I guess, that reasonably he could go to?
Yeah.
Let's say Neighbors goes to the Giants, Odunze goes to the Chargers or Cardinals.
Giants.
Are you changing your opinion? I'm not, personally.
No, I can't.
I think people will, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, I would agree. Brock's a Colt fan. I think everyone would want A-Rich over JJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Wisconsin running back should be what AJ Dillon should have been. Yeah, that'd be
AJ
funny.
Dillon was good the first 2 years in his career. I think Braylon, like people might hear Braylon Allen to AJ Dillon, think that's like a disrespectful comp, but AJ Dillon was good for 2 years and at the start of his career.
Yeah, fair. Where's your comment, by the way? So you got where we left off on John. AJ says, I'm too lazy to retype. Can you answer my queue? Okay, bet.
He asked, what should I get for David Njoku? Because nobody wants him in Tone Setter League. He's offered me him like 60
He's
times.
offered me him
Kittle. I have
a
Kittle,
million
so I'm like,
times.
I don't really care, dude. I don't need David Njoku.
Who do I have? Tone Setters?
Yeah.
I have Goddard and I have Ferguson, so I'm chilling.
Yeah. The problem with tight ends right now, dude, is that there's actually a lot of decent options. Like, it's not the same as like how it used to be when if you didn't have Kelsey, you were fucked.
Yeah, it's like for me at my point, I have good enough tight end options where I don't want to trade other capital to do so. So that's kind of where I'm at. Also, it still fucking sucks that I gave you the 107, man.
I love that I have the 107 in that league. I'm not gonna lie. What I might try and do with that pick, by the way, is get a better quarterback. Because I have Fields, Purdy.
JJ McCarthy. I'm kidding.
No. I was gonna say I could take Fields or Purdy and add the 107 and see who I could get up to with it. Is what I was thinking of doing. But I also traded you Devontae Adams, and just swapping out Romo Dunze for Devontae Adams would also feel pretty nice as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, for those of you who are curious, I believe the trade ended up being, so I was in championship week, wanted a little spike because I was projected to be the underdog. I ended up trading Corey, Travis Etienne, 107, and I think a 2025 too.
Yeah. And then I gave you Devontae Adams and
McCaffrey and Adams.
Yeah, which so Etienne and McCaffrey, I like, maybe this is an outrageously stupid take for people. I still view Etienne and McCaffrey quite similarly. I would prefer McCaffrey, but I view them similarly because you're getting a 2 to 3 year projection out of Etienne where it's like a year by year basis on Christian McCaffrey. And I just am in general higher on the Jags going forward because I think that Lawrence just got unlucky this year and he was hurt. And, I got a starting running back tethered to like a really good offense right now and he's 24 years old.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Brothers, I have Njoku, Kincaid, Komet, McBride.
That's crazy, bro. That is a crazy tight end core.
Dude, like, you should be able to get value, but just like go to someone that needs a tight end.
Man. I mean, I'll give you like a second for Kincaid because I'm a competitive team who has George Kittle. I'm fine rolling with George Kittle. Like, he's totally cool. I'll take the ups and downs. Like, I have Purdy and I have Ayuk and stuff. Like, I would, AJ, if you want to swap tight ends because I have so many 49ers, we could do that. But like, I want Kincaid probably for Kittle because I prefer Kittle to Njoku. So, and I'm not going to get McBride. I would assume you're not going to give me McBride for Kittle. So.
Yeah, John, we went over that. I would agree. It seems like he makes the like I said, he makes the easy plays look hard. The hard plays look easy. He's
a dog, man. Like, there's plays where he tries to hit stick linebackers and he looks like an idiot, but this is how he is.
I'm pretty sure it was the one against Alabama where he was like 2 yards short of the stick and he just
bounced off a strong safety on that play. That was a strong safety that hit him.
Yeah. Fair enough, Raptor. In my opinion, it's something that can definitely be worked on. They're going back and forth on JJ in the chat. Okay, come on. We're not comparing JJ to Stetson Bennett. That's not happening.
I mean, and Raptor, I get liking Mitchell more, but the bottom line is Worthy was better this year.
I like Mitchell more, man.
I like Mitchell a lot, and I think the NFL might prefer Mitchell as well because he's got the size, but I don't know. I think the skill set that Worthy has is way more transferable to the NFL. It's route runners who have good speed, who have been productive for 3 years, all 3 seasons. Like, I just think Worthy's a way easier projection than people are letting on. They're letting the size get to them and the drops get to them, but he was better from a drops perspective. And I seriously think his size is a little bit overrated as well. I think everybody looks at his size and thinks he's like 160 pounds because that's what he's listed at coming out of high school. He's like 175 pounds.
Respectable. I have the 108 this year and feel like there's a clear top 7. I would agree with you there. As a contender, which gettable stud running back or receivers would you target with this pick? Thanks from Scotland. I mean, for the 108 straight up, like, I wouldn't mind giving that for Travis Etienne. That's probably about the guy I'm thinking of.
Yeah, sorry. I just shout out to Scotland.
Shout out to Scotland. Facts.
I'm watching Gordon Ramsay's vacation that he does with his 2 buddies, the Italian guy and the French guy, and they go to Italy, to France, and to Scotland because I don't know if you knew this, but Gordon Ramsay's from Scotland, not England. But yeah, that shout out to Scotland.
Wait, real talk. Did Kellen Moore get hired by the Eagles?
Oh God! Shout out to Kellen Moore getting hired by the Eagles just so that Devontae Smith can catch like way more passes this year.
Sorry, my apologies. They requested an interview for Kellen Moore.
Buck's Twitter's
I
melting
agree with you,
down from
Raptor.
Baker Mayfield just keeping offensive coordinator for fuck's sakes.
For real. They're just going back and forth. Watching Leggett, you're right. He looks like DK. Saw him carry 6 defenders like 10 yards. Speed is unreal. Yeah, dude, he
Roddy
is
White,
legit,
I like that.
man.
I like
I
Roddy
like
White.
that
That's
too.
a good one too.
Roddy was
Dude,
a
the
fucking
play
stud.
against Mississippi State, if you guys don't seriously understand how fast Xavier Leggett is, just literally watch the 2 touchdowns against Mississippi State. He like legit like jet packs away from people when he accelerates for that size, which is crazy.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Sanders will be a dope tight end. I think so too, but I think Sanders is pretty bust prone as well.
Yeah.
I think he could be pretty large bust in the NFL if he has so many mental mistakes, man. And I'm sure you know as a Texas fan, like we went back and forth a million times on the play that Xavier Worthy catches the end around against Alabama, and Sanders has a corner. It's a corner. It's literally a corner, and he can't block a corner from Xavier Worthy.
Wait, are you talk about the end around?
Yeah. And you were like, oh, I wish Xavier Worthy was more patient on this.
Both of them there.
I think Xavier Worthy just thought his fucking tight end could block a corner, to be honest.
Fair, but I do think that there was an issue on multiple plays there. Like Xavier Worthy plays to one speed far too often, more than I would like.
He doesn't in phase of his routes, though. I get what you mean after the catch. He doesn't really let his blocks develop. But when he's in phase of his routes, he changes his speeds up quite a bit.
Fair. Where to set the tone? Let's go, Toronto, Dave. Let's go. Is it valid to think Gibbs could have a CJ2K career? Similar player, I feel like. I mean, if he peaks at CJ2K, fucking.
I think he could be. This might be an outrageous take. I think he's better than CJ2K.
Longevity, I would think so, because I mean, CJ2K only.
CJ was just fast, man. Like he didn't like do that much well. Like Gibbs is elusive, fast, and he's a great receiver.
I also have to think, to be fair, you have to consider the era. Like, just running backs are used differently now than they are back then. Like, if Gibbs ever got 358 carries in a season, I'd be shocked. But could he have 258 and 120 targets? Absolutely.
Yeah. I also saw this, by the way. Jalen Wright isn't in the ADP.
Wild.
Yeah, that's so they need to get that updated. But yeah, Jalen Wright definitely. We are closing in on an hour 45, so I'm kind of just scanning the comments here and just seeing if there's anything else here that matters. Maybe say Laporta. If you have a Laporta. Also, by the way, I saw people talking about this on Twitter. Let me know your opinion on this. I love Brock Bowers. It is absolutely outrageous to say he's higher than Sam Laporta in Dynasty ranking.
I disagree.
What if he Laporta just literally had the best tight end season we've ever seen.
Listen to me. Right now, I'm going to have Laporta 1. But if Bowers goes to the Chargers at 5, all bets are off.
No, it's still Laporta. It's still Laporta.
Dude, I don't think you understand. Harbaugh.
I know how good Brock Bowers is, bro. It's totally like mystery box Family Guy meme, bro. Like if Brock Bowers has anything close to Sam Laporta's rookie season, we're gonna like be drooling over the guy, bro. Like
we also have to consider We also have to consider Ben Johnson leaving. We also have to consider quarterback stability long term. Like I think there's a real case for Bowers tight end 1. Again, if he lands in the wrong spot, if he goes to like say the Giants cut Darren Waller and they I
kind of actually still like that for Bowers, to be honest.
I don't hate it, but like I'm saying, like Bowers to the Chargers.
I think regardless of where he goes, he's going to end up being tight end 2 for me in Dynasty, most likely, because I think he's a better version of McBride, and like Andrews obviously is a little bit older and stuff. And if Hawkinson didn't get hurt, he would be a little bit higher, but I don't know. Shane
Waldron to the Bears, big time.
Yeah, I do like that. Solid value at the 404. I'll take him over Shipley and Estime. Who did I get 404? Oh, Michael Pratt. I don't know who we're talking
probably
about.
A different draft. All good.
Maybe.
Let's go. You're a Texas fan. Dallas better, bud.
Yeah. His question here was, if you have Laporta, Odunze, or Bowers at 103. If you have Laporta already, I'm taking Odunze.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely don't want to take another top tight end that high.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through right now. Like it literally just looks like Mike and Brock are just beefing for like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah. No, I'm scanning.
I respect it.
We talked about Keon already. We talked about some of this stuff.
Would you guys have a different rookie quarterback for in best ball as opposed to Dynasty? Not necessarily. I mean, it depends. Like,
I mean,
I only think
whoever gets the capital is who I'm going to like more. It really doesn't matter. Like if Penix goes in the first round, even though I think he's the QB6 in the class, he's going to be the QB4 in the class.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at it, right, like you're looking at, let's just say JJ McCarthy's the fourth quarterback on the board. I only think maximum 4 quarterbacks are probably going to go in the first round, whether
I
that's
don't even
Bo
think
Nix or
4
whether
are
that's
going. I think
JJ.
it's 3.
I
I think
think
it's
it's
going
going
to
to
be
be
3.
4 because I think we're hearing way too much buzz about Daniels going high. I do think he ends up going high. If Daniels goes top 10, which I think is it feels like a lock at this point with what we're
I
hearing.
would have said that about Levis this time last year, dude.
Maybe, yeah, fair. But let's just say Daniels does go top 10. You have 3 quarterbacks in the top 10. Hard time for me to believe 22 other picks. A guy like JJ McCarthy, I understand he's got his flaws, but he's going to be 21. And a player like that, you want the 5th-year option on. You don't want to take this guy at the top of the second round and only get 4 years on him. So I really do think there could be a case where if JJ McCarthy falls to pick 25, pick 26, and a team picking at 35 wants to trade up for that 5th-year option, I think that would make a ton of sense. By the way, yeah, Braylon Edwards, go blue, baby. Mike probably knows the football players too.
Danny, let's wrap this up because my camera just died and I don't feel like
good.
changing my battery for like 5 minutes. So if you want to just outro this again, make sure you guys are checking out Flock Fantasy. We got all this rookie content. If you got a lot of value from this live stream, you guys have no idea what's about to come February 15th when we drop the first edition of the rookie draft guide. And of course, Dynasty Decisions priority. A lot of people you asking, should we do one this week or next week or whatever? Maybe we'll do one for tomorrow potentially, but we really want to get through these rookies. So I would say next Monday or on Monday is probably when we're going to drop that. So Danny, if you want to outro this thing.
Yeah, for sure. With that being said, appreciate you guys for sticking around. 94 still in here, almost 2 hours into the stream. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like down below. We tried to get to as many comments as possible. And of course, in the comments section of this live stream, it's going to be posted on the channel. If you want to comment what you want to see this upcoming week, this upcoming month in terms of content, we're going to be all ears. We want to bring you guys what you want to watch. But with that being said, peace out. I'm going to go make something to eat. Take care.